Well, good morning and welcome, everybody. If you got a chance, you want to grab yourself some coffee, I see there's some donuts and stuff over there, help yourselves. This event here today has grown into something a lot larger than originally was anticipated. I think Karen and I sat down and had a cup of coffee one day. Maybe we had one too many cups of coffee. And we talked about gathering some folks up together with some of the smaller communities around and bringing them in and getting them around the table with some of our state officials and talk about the needs that they had in their communities. Talk about how they've been impacted from the energy sector back when the boom was going on and how they're surviving and how they're getting through all of this. Is what it started with. And it started out with 5-6 communities. It grew through District 39, which in return grew to Region 8 here. And here we all are today. So again, welcome. Look forward to this. A lot of this is driven, I go around, at least in District 39, I talk to some of the community leaders and sometimes they don't feel like their voice is being heard when they get there. And I couldn't think of a better way than if we can't get the people to Bismarck to talk about the needs and stuff, let's bring the people out here and do it. And we all know the success of our state in Western North Dakota is driven by energy and agriculture. And we're dealing in a new realm of that right now. Energy and ag are playing, they work together well with renewables and everything going on. You watch the news, you see some of the challenges that are going on with carbon and all the other stuff that's going on there. We in southwestern North Dakota are pretty innovative in what we've been doing. Some of the stuff that is giving angst to the rest of the country, we've did this for a while here. And I think if we can sit down and we can get our communities going here again with some of this stuff, I think we got a lot to offer out here. It just feels like we sit out here and we don't want to go tout this. We want to kind of live in our own little world, but these folks are here today to give us a hand. And I think we can really take advantage of that. The legislature has funded many programs and passed many laws that set us up for success for our communities. Our farmers and ranchers, energy producers, and main streets need the state's help. We know that everyone needs help sometimes, and that's what the state is for, and that's why we put these funds together. We brought together today, we got Lieutenant Governor here, Tammy Miller. We brought Josh Tigan in from Farmers. We have Kelvin from the Bank of North Dakota. I think we have Andrea Travnik here from Water. We brought these people together. We're going to sit this morning. We're going to listen to some talks and stuff. But in the afternoon, we want you to gather up, meet with these folks, and talk one-on-one. You folks with your communities, talk about the needs that you have, and let them take a look at what they can do for you. That's our job at the state, is what we can do for you and your communities. So we'll get started with, I think we got Lynn. Of course, Lynn. I think we can let Lynn sit. She's
coming up.
Okay.
Her speech is up there.
Good morning. I can't see everybody very well here. There we go. So, gosh, what an honor to be here This is my first official outing following, what am I doing? Following foot surgery. So I'm a little wobbly, but anyway, it means a lot to be here with all of you. And Greg had mentioned some of the folks in the room that we are so grateful for. And I would like to add to that list Senator Kessel, Representative Kempenick, Representative Hauk, and I hope I haven't missed any of our other legislators. And of course, former Senator, retired Senator Rich Warner, and then our city commissioners and council members from the region, our county commissioners from the region, and our Roosevelt Regional Council members, and all of our guests from other state and federal agencies. We're so glad you're here. And it's just really great to have this honor of hosting this first regional State of the Region event. So when I speak with other groups across North Dakota, I like to describe Bowman and our surrounding rural partners as a community of champion citizens who are willing to go the extra mile for a friend and neighbor. Bowman strives to be a great place to live, work, and play, and we're always looking for ways to make this city just a step above where we were in the year past. This cannot be accomplished without partnerships from our governmental agencies, our development corporation, and our local businesses. We're very fortunate here. And I'd like to give a shout out before I go on to Taryn and her team at the Development Corporation and all of the agencies within her office for putting this on. She and her team are rock stars who are very fortunate. We want to keep us, so don't anybody ask to take. You're gonna have to deal with it anyway. Okay. This region has many resources and opportunities that we continue to explore and capitalize on. Even though we have many great things going on and many more possibilities out there, we all have challenges in funding, particularly for aging infrastructure. I'm hopeful that enhanced resources will be available to us in the future. There's definitely a lot of work to do there, but I am tenacious and I'm going to keep working on that. I'm very proud of and very grateful for the people here in our area who have taken the time and made the effort to share their expertise and guidance through leadership, whether they're elected or appointed at every level in the region. We have a can-do attitude here, and that's for sure. We're very fortunate of that. And I'd like to thank you once again for the opportunity to greet you this morning and be patient with my hobbling to the podium. I'm proud to serve as the president of the Bowman City Commission, where I'm in my third decade of leadership as an elected official. We have a terrific community, county, and state filled with fine people like all of you. Thank you for your dedicated leadership service, and I hope you enjoy your day.
Okay, well, I told Josh I was not going to read his bio, but I had an opening. So I'm going to take the opportunity to welcome our next two guests that are going to be opening us up today. First up is Lieutenant Governor Tammy Miller. Tammy J. Miller was sworn, I found out it's Joe this morning. And Tammy J. Miller was sworn in as the 39th Lieutenant Governor of North Dakota on January 3rd, 2023. A native of Brockett, North Dakota, Miller graduated from high school in Lakota. She earned a bachelor's in accounting and a master of business administration from Minnesota State University, Moorhead. Miller is a certified public accountant and early in her career spent 8 years in public accounting. Miller served as chief operating officer in the governor's office from April 2020 through December 2022, working with the cabinet agencies to enhance citizen focus, drive innovation, and improve the delivery of government services. She previously served as CEO of Fargo-based Border States, the 6th largest electrical distributor in North America. Under Miller's leadership, Border States grew from under $500 million in annual sales to nearly $2.5 billion. As Lieutenant Governor, she serves as President of the State Senate and chairs the Capitol Grounds Planning Commission, North Dakota Trade Office, Task Force for Military Issues in North Dakota, Northern Plains Unmanned Systems Authority, State Investment Board, State Board of Equalization, and Early Childhood Council. I'm also going to introduce Commissioner Tigan this morning. Josh began his career in venture capital before serving as CEO of a software company. He has had many interesting roles, including founder of a consulting firm, co-founder of a medical device manufacturing company where he served as president and CFO, and president of a nonprofit staffing company that employs individuals on the autism spectrum. In 2019, he joined Commerce as the head of investments and innovation. From there, he became the director of economic development and finance before being appointed by Governor Burgum as commissioner of Commerce in September of 2022. So thank you. We're going to welcome you both just to open us up today.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is a great pleasure to be with you all here today in Bowman. It was just a great start. We were picked up at the airport by Taryn and her brother, had a little community tour and also toured the Edge facility. What an amazing facility in a community this size. I am someone who is super passionate about fitness and health. So to see that facility available to everyone in the community and surrounding area is amazing. And I wish every community in North Dakota could have an Edge facility. It was also super fun to go on the tour. This community is what we think about when we talk about healthy, vibrant communities. To see that you have hotels, a grocery store, 4 dentists, all kinds of thriving businesses and industry, a new restaurant coming. So thank you for all that you do to promote and maintain a healthy, vibrant community. And it is so exciting to be here at your inaugural State of Region 8. Thank you, Senator Kessel, for organizing this and inviting us. I also want to thank your mayor. Thank you, Mayor James, for your leadership. It was fun to connect with you on the phone last week. And very happy to see your recovery from your foot surgery. It's already been said, but I too would like to welcome and thank all of the elected officials who are here today. Thank you for your service. And why don't we have all the elected officials in the room stand up and let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for the service and thank you for the difference you're making. Also want to thank other members of the community who are here for your interest. Thank you for being engaged in making your community stronger. And lastly, Taryn, where did you go? Thank you for all of your good work behind the scenes to organize and execute on this event. Okay. So we look around here and we see the incredible growth and the significant opportunities that we have in Western North Dakota. We see the rich farmland, ranching traditions, all of your energy development and tourism. This region is really one of the main reasons that North Dakota is such an economic powerhouse. Your tourism, your thriving businesses, your engaged communities, you make these areas folks where people want to come and live and raise their families. And there's so many exciting opportunities ahead as we think about the energy industry, petrochemicals, Project Tundra, enhanced oil recovery, the list goes on. But with those opportunities, we know there are also challenges. I know a big challenge out in this part of the state is water, and I believe Andrea is going to be with you in a little bit to give you some solutions for all of your water problems. No pressure there, Andrea. I know another big challenge for all of us in North Dakota is workforce. When we look at North Dakota, we have the lowest unemployment rate in the country, tied with the state of Maryland at 1.9%. And we think we have every day at least 30,000 jobs open in the state of North Dakota. We've been working hard across the state, and I know you're doing good work locally to recruit. Taryn is doing it one family member at a time to help grow our workforce and our economy here. We're doing that across the state as well. And we kind of joke, but that word of mouth recruiting goes a super long way to help bring friends and family to North Dakota. Last legislative session, we also made some big milestone improvements with childcare. Thank you to our legislators who are in the room for passing the $66 million childcare package that will help us address childcare in many of our communities. We know that childcare is infrastructure. Childcare is workforce infrastructure. So thank you for the legislature for passing and for Governor Burgum for signing that $66 million childcare bill. It was a historic package and it is making a difference in the state of North Dakota. Last legislative session, we also passed $515 million in tax relief. I hope all of you have gone online and applied for your $500 free tax credit. I know that is being very well received in the state. We also had a significant decrease in individual income tax. Now, 60% of the taxpayers in North Dakota will pay zero individual income tax. And we are hoping to finish that job next legislative session. We would love for North Dakota to be a zero individual income tax state. We know that will help us with workforce. When we're competing with a lot of the states who are hiring the same type of employees that we are, many of them have zero individual income tax. I was actually talking with a manufacturer yesterday who has business in North Dakota and South Dakota. And she indicated that they have a much easier job recruiting out-of-state workers to South Dakota because of the zero income tax. So let's talk to our legislators and let's make sure we can get that done during the next legislative session. It would be great for workforce if we had zero individual income tax in the state of North Dakota. We also know that housing is another area of infrastructure that is causing a lot of challenges across our state. I know I've talked to a number of mayors the last couple of weeks, and housing comes up in every conversation. We know we need to do a lot of work with housing to provide more affordable opportunities for individuals wanting to live or move into our communities. Just like childcare, the governor has launched a work group to address housing. He announced it at the State of the State in Dickinson on January 23rd. Just like childcare, we will bring together public and private stakeholders to make recommendations that we can propose to the 2025 legislature to help us with some of these housing challenges. And there are some programs already available. Just yesterday, I believe, Commerce announced $500,000 in grants to 8 communities to help clean up and remove old dilapidated buildings. And I believe the city of Bowman was the recipient of one of those grants for $273,000, which will allow the community to demolish and clear off some lots. I think 7 to 10 lots will be able to be cleared and prepared for new homes. So really great opportunities to help our communities bring in some new housing. And I know that there will be another round of those grants that will open up on March 5th. The Main Street Initiative, too, is a very important initiative for us across the state. It helps us create healthy, vibrant communities with smart, efficient infrastructure that will help us attract that workforce talent that we need. We have over 100 Main Street communities in the state, and we're super excited about that. I know oftentimes communities don't think that it's relevant for rural communities, so I know Commerce is making some changes to the program, and maybe Josh will say a few words about that. I talked a little bit about housing, a little bit about taxes, a little bit about workforce, but another thing that is super important for folks who are coming to communities is opportunities for recreation and tourism. Talked a little bit about recreation with the EDGE facilities, and I'd also like to talk just a little bit about tourism. You are in such a great hub for tourism right now with so many excellent opportunities ahead. I know you are preparing well for the opening of the library, the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library. It will provide so many economic opportunities for this region. We're super excited about that. I could go on about all of the good things that are happening here. Please take time to pause and think about the great things. I think Senator Kessel made some comments that you don't often reflect and talk about all of the good things and share the good things that are happening in this southwest corner of North Dakota. This really is the American dream, the best of America, as the governor likes to say. So super excited to be here, super excited to be on the ground, see what's going on here in Region 8, and look forward to all of the great presentations and discussions today. Together, we can accomplish what we say is our purpose in state government: to empower people, improve lives, and inspire success. Really great to be with all of you today, and look forward to meeting each of you individually. Look forward to a great meeting. And with that, I'll turn it over to Josh.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here, and thank you to future Governor Miller, or Lieutenant Governor Miller, for kicking us off. As mentioned, Josh Hagan, I'm the Commerce Commissioner. I've been in this role for about 1.5 years, and I think this is my 5th trip to Bowman since being Commissioner. And that's not by accident. I mean, when you look at the turnout in this room, this is an incredible turnout for a community of any size, let alone a county of 4,000 people. So the county of Bowman, this region of the state, the community of Bowman, is really a microcosm and a gold standard for how we do rural prosperity across North Dakota. And we reference this community often when we're talking with others. So I believe that I have, maybe the best job in the world. I never saw myself in state government, had a great time in the private sector, and then was almost drug into public service by our governor. But it's been such a blast because I get to wake up every day and try to create new wealth for the state of North Dakota. And I love this state, and I love the people and the communities. And I don't think there's a more exciting time in North Dakota's history than right now. When I started as head of economic development for commerce, we had about $2.5 billion worth of projects looking to locate in the state. Today, the number's north of 60 billion. It's almost like the industrial revolution of 1800, the oil boom of the 80s, and the tech boom of the 2000s is all kind of converging, happening at one time in North Dakota. Between, the oil and gas production that we have, the downstream petrochemical opportunities that are on the horizon and being built, the ability to pioneer new technologies like carbon capture and storage, hydrogen, things like rare earth minerals, and then also the unmanned systems activity that's happening in the state. We have so many things that are happening at once that are, I think, going to chart a path of prosperity that we've never really seen in the state. And so that's super exciting to, play a small part in that. But that's not something that happens at the state level. That happens, at the local level, and local leaders and our legislature saying, we're going to be bold and take risks, and we're going to go out and grab this opportunity that's in front of us. And regardless of the economic opportunity that's on the horizon, we know that we can't actually execute on that unless we have things like workforce, unless we have healthy, vibrant communities to attract that workforce to. So we know that quality of life is workforce development, and workforce development is economic development. And when you take a place like Bowman with tremendous amenities, grocery stores, more than one, most communities would just kill for one. The recreational center, that we toured this morning, all of the economic opportunity that exists here, all the quality of life that exists here, is truly a great place to be able to recruit people to, and that's going to be the key to executing on a lot of these economic opportunities. So I'm super excited to be here. I love this part of the state. I love the leadership here. I think we are able to get things done quickly and have a lot of, transparent, open conversations in this corner of the state. And it's been really fun to see how that has converged into what you guys have today. So really looking forward to the day. Thanks for having us, and we'll continue. Turn it to Taryn, or who do I turn it to? Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you. I have to echo what Senator Kessel said. He stopped in my office one day, and I think we envisioned this being a group of people that cared about Southwest North Dakota and wanted to get those people together and talk about real solutions. And I think it goes to show how many people truly care about Southwest North Dakota by the turnout that we have today. So it's humbling to see all of you here today. And I hope that you learn a lot. I hope that really good solutions and opportunities for talk happen today. So with that, I do want to just, again, thank you, Senator Kessel, for walking in my office that day and instigating this meeting. It takes someone like that to light a fire and get a group together. And I think that's really important. I'm going to stop. Maybe I have to move a little bit. It does. It takes people getting those things together. She's going to get mad at me for moving. And so thank you for that. I want to thank you guys for being here today, for flying in and listening to us. This was really important for us to have you in the room today. So thank you to the Lieutenant Governor, Commissioner Tigan, Kelvin. Thank you for being here, and all of you elected officials. I also really want to thank my team. I work with an incredible group that cares about Southwest North Dakota just as much. We turned in 4 grants this week, and we had this event happen, and they pulled together and made it happen. They got this room put together, and they go all out, and you can see that today. So thank you so much to my team that I work with. Also, big shout out to the regional partners that I work with. Ryan, Carrie, all of you, you sat down and you said, how can we help Taryn? This is important to us too. And so they really jumped in and helped with this to make this event possible. We have some great speakers today that are going to talk to you about some really critical things happening in Southwest North Dakota. And so we're really excited and thankful that they came today. So when I started my career here about 15 years ago, one of the things that they highlighted was that North Dakota is a very connected state. And that was extremely important for getting work done. And that is one of our strongest assets. And so I know our state is going to continue to grow. I know we're working on bringing people in. And that's an important piece, but I hope that we can continue to pick up the phone and call Kelvin when we have a project, call Josh when we have a project, text Maria when we have a question. Those things make it possible for us to do the work we do and do it well, and really come together and create new ideas. And so that has always been something that I held on to since I started here. And I hope that we continue to do that across the state in all areas. This is our first ever State of the Region event. It was meant to be an informal event. It is meant for conversations to happen. Yes, there's going to be people up front talking, but we encourage you to ask questions. We hope to have this every year. We hope to continue to have this event, get people together, tell Southwest North Dakota's story, but ask questions, have discussions. Senator Kessel said these people are not leaving until everyone has their say. So please make sure that you talk to them and you talk to people in this room. There will be a survey available so we can hear more about what's happening in your communities, to hear about what we could possibly bring next year. And then you'll also get an email survey about the event. So today's event, why are we here? We want to raise awareness of the unique opportunities that exist in Southwest North Dakota. We want to have productive dialogue and talk about actionable solutions. It is great to have our partner organizations in the room, because in between the legislative session, it's programs that the Department of Commerce has, it's programs that the Department of Ag has, it's programs that Make North Dakota have that make our work possible. So they're here to listen, to think about real solutions when they go back and say, how can we help address those issues? So we're grateful that they're here. We also know there are things like housing, workforce, childcare. Those are issues that are impacting our entire state. And they are impacting us right here in Southwest North Dakota too. And yes, they're not on the agenda today. We know they're important, but we really wanted to zero in on what's happening in Southwest North Dakota. So that's what the discussion is going to be focused on today. Those meetings are still happening. We're still talking about childcare, housing. I know really good solutions are happening around housing, especially in rural areas. But today's agenda will be very focused in on Southwest North Dakota. We're going to talk about infrastructure today, economic growth possibilities, and we welcome questions to happen. This afternoon, we are going to be facilitating roundtables. We do have the conference room upstairs as well. On the back of your agenda, those are topics for roundtables that are going to be happening this afternoon. We by no means want to box you in on topics, but we do want to encourage conversation around these issues. So we invite you to sit down with a group of people and talk about what's happening in your areas in regards to these different things, and have those conversations. So we hope you stick around with us and make that happen. I absolutely love living where I do. I love it. In our office, we call this God's country. And I think that if you spend any amount of time here, you will absolutely see why. I've had the privilege of working in economic community development for 15 years. I know that seems really hard when I'm only 25. But I was just telling someone, I remember when I first started this job and the commissioners would call me kid. And I miss that. I always waited for that to go away, but now I'm like, maybe they could call me kid again. That'd be real great. But I have served as the Economic Development Director for Bowman County. I am the past chair on the Economic Development Association in North Dakota Board, and I serve on the Governor's Rural Development Council. A year and a half ago, I had the opportunity to take on the role as the Executive Director for Roosevelt Custer Regional Council. And regional councils, there are 8 of us across the state, and it is our role to focus on economic and community development for larger areas in the state and help facilitate those things in a region. So that is who we're here today representing is Region 8. I was able to move here 17 years ago, was able to get a good job. I love living here. It's safe. Someone asked if they could borrow my car the other day, and I said, absolutely. And they said, well, can I get your keys? And I said, they're in it. It's in the parking lot, help yourself. That is something that I think we take for granted here, is the safety that we feel. My kids have ample opportunities for activities. I love the drive time to work every day. It takes me 5 minutes to drop my kids off, get to the office, and then I have a night where I can get home. And I love the commute time that I have. My kids ride their bikes to summer events, things like that. And that is huge when it comes to quality of life. We have opportunities for education here. The Southwest VTE Center, if you haven't had an opportunity to tour that facility, it is incredible. It is a huge asset for us. I wish that I had those opportunities when I was in high school. So if you haven't yet tour that, that is absolutely an asset that we have here. I know we talked about this a lot. Recreation, there's so much opportunity for recreation right here in Southwest North Dakota. Hunting is not seasonal in Southwest North Dakota. It is a year-round thing that happens. And our communities are making those investments in rec centers, splash pads, downtown squares. So that's really, really important here in Southwest North Dakota. So in the last year and a half, as part of the regional council, each regional council is required to do a strategic plan for their region. And so we took this opportunity to get to know our communities a little more. A copy of our strategic plan is available if you haven't got one, but we visited each of the communities within our region and took the time to hear what they were going through, what opportunities they saw, the challenges that they were facing, and we wanted to hear what they had to say about what they wanted for the future of Southwest North Dakota. We did 8 county meetings. We did surveys with that, and then we got a group together and said, okay, what initiatives do we really want to work on? This is by no means inclusive of everything that needs to happen here in Southwest North Dakota, but these are the areas that we wanted to focus on as regional council. According to the census, in our region, we did have 7% growth. In our region, the majority of that was in Stark County. but we did have a few counties that did experience population loss in that time. Some of the key assets that were highlighted in that, high-speed broadband. We have people moving into our area from Denver, some of those bigger metropolitan areas, and that's one of the #1 comments they make is our internet speeds are incredible here. We have good roads. They talked about recreation and tourism, and then we heard over and over, the sense of community is incredible here. People love the communities that they live in. Opportunities are huge. We've got ag, we've got energy, we've got manufacturing here. Tourism opportunities that exist there, more opportunities for workforce development. Challenges, of course, the ones that we've talked about already today. The aging buildings was another big topic that came up. High construction costs, especially in rural communities, is a real detriment when it comes to building homes. So we're talking solutions for that. And then water access is going to be talked about. I do want to point out this statistic is staggering to me. Stark Development Corporation said this in their annual meeting the other day, but this last year they invested $70,000 in childcare. Is it 70, right? Yes. And they had 74 new openings. But according to Childcare, where they have 6,200 kids, 0 to 12, approximately 4,000 kids with both parents in the workforce, but they only have licensed capacity for 881 in Stark County. If people move into our communities, one of the biggest issues that we have still is getting them childcare. I have had family move to the region recently, and we were making accommodations for them to work from home with their kids when childcare became a big issue for keeping them in the workforce. The 6 strategies that were defined in that process were enhancing capacity and support for rural communities. I'm going to talk to you more about that today, but our rural communities really need more assistance when it comes to programs and projects. Marketing the region as a great place to live, work, and play. We want to tell our story here in Southwest North Dakota. Ryan says that all the time. We need to tell our story. We're not always good at shouting from the rooftops how great we are, and we want to start doing that. We want to support tourism industry growth, support economic growth and diversification, enhance housing development, and then strengthen our organization to do the work. So we already started a number of these initiatives, and I want to talk to you about these today because these were made possible by some of the programs from our partners today. So we did access the Regional Workforce Impact Program from the Department of Commerce as a regional council to launch a regional workforce campaign. That campaign is about $278,000, $40,000 from local communities to match that. And that campaign will include regional photo and video library, a website with a job board and information to move here. That website will be launching here in the next month. We will have social media accounts specific to Southwest North Dakota, videos telling our story, true stories of people who live here and talking about why they live where they do. We will also be doing display and video advertising through December of 2024. It is our hope to expand that campaign with potential more funding from the Department of Commerce. This is our website. This is a draft mock-up of what that will look like. We've been working with a firm out of North Dakota, and Wide Open Wonder is the phrase that they help us work out. And what that's going to do is, we're going to talk about the wide open opportunities, the wide open areas, the different jobs that we have available here. So people will be able to access this website specifically for Southwest North Dakota and get hooked up with someone to talk about moving to the area. We have 95 videos that were put together. These will be assets that can be used by our communities, by our employers. We have a local dentist here who recruited a dentist out of Canada, and she tells this story, but she used a workforce recruitment video to bring that dentist here. Those are good ways to tell our story and get the news out there about who we are. Another big thing we did, I'm full speed ahead on this. Tourism is a big opportunity here for us in Southwest North Dakota. even beyond Medora and Billings County. We believe that all of our areas have an opportunity to capitalize on this, the additional traffic coming through the area. And we want to give those county and city leaders an opportunity to hear about how they can play a part in that, how they can take advantage of that traffic. So we're working with the Economic Development Administration on a disaster funding for our area to fund a vision plan for all of Southwest North Dakota when it comes to tourism. How can Adams County benefit from that traffic? How can Hettinger County get more people over to the Enchanted Highway? What can we do for investments in our area to make all of our communities thrive from that? So this will involve a lot of research and engagement on your part. We hope you take part in those meetings, talk about what can really happen in your area. And then there will be final presentations in each of the communities to talk about what you can do to make an impact. We do anticipate that project starting this summer. I did get an email from the EDA. They're very good. And they just said, hey, Taryn, this looks good. We should have no problem with this. So I felt comfortable saying this today. Another big focus area, agriculture. This is in our plan. We did receive funding to do regional food business centers. It's really important for us to help our producers get their products to market. And so the next 5 years, this will be a big part of our work, is helping them do that. And then we are working with the Department of Ag on land use planning for all of our counties. I know a number of regional councils have already started to work on this. We're working with local JDAs. I have to tell you, I know a lot of people don't understand the work we do, but it is incredibly important to have those community champions working to make our communities competitive. The communities that invest in that, they are the ones that are getting these grants, that are accessing this funding. That is such an important piece. So we are out there saying, how can we help? We're also helping with grant writing services. This is an intimidating task for a lot of our local nonprofits. And so how can we help them access those funds and leverage them into our communities? Another really big thing that we've talked about is the future of leadership here and all across the state. And how do we build up those leaders? I will never forget 15 years ago sitting in a meeting and someone that was near retirement, I had an idea and it kind of got shot down. And people said, we've done that, try that. But someone said, we need to listen to her and we need to let her try. And so I think that's incredibly important. Someone took a chance on me to have this job. I was very underqualified at the time and they believed in me and they have let me thrive. And so if we want future leaders in our communities, we have to champion them. We have to support them. We have to listen to them. I think that's incredibly important as people who are sitting in this room. My last thing that I want to talk to you today, rural capacity is really important. I can't tell you the number of projects that walk in my door that we want to help these rural communities and we can't. They don't have the people to do it. Communities like Grand Forks, Fargo, they're getting the resources because they've got the people to do it. They've got the people to write the grant. They've got the people that can help the entrepreneur. They have those investments. So I think rural capacity is a real issue that we need to talk about. We need to advocate for investments to go all across the state, not just into our big communities, and help them implement them and benefit from them. I do believe our rural communities can be at a disadvantage because these things are really hard for us. I know there's a grant. A lot of you are familiar with it, through the grid funding, and I saw that application process for some of our counties in our region. It's completely, I've never seen a grant like that. And I can see so many communities just walking away because it's almost impossible to apply for. I think that's really, really important. I know the RWIP program, they just released another round. And in our region, we had 2 submitted full applications completed. And I think so much of it is people don't know where to start. And if they did get the funding, they don't know how to make the program happen. That's very important. I know programs like LIFT, they're doing really big things, but how do we help those communities all across the state access them? And then helping with those match requirements. 25% match for some of these rural communities is very, very hard to come up with. So when we are designing programs, I think that's very important to think about. So capacity, just to reiterate, it's people, I think no different than a lender or an engineer or any of those professional people. We have to invest in the people that know how to do this work, that know how to build communities. They're just as important. I know I've heard this and I've been told it's very hard to invest in people, but that is important. I will say my office is an example of how that works. We have people that can make these graphics come to life, that can tell the story, that can put the video together. And that's led to our success in bringing more funding here. I would speak that every day, all day. So just to reiterate, North Dakota is in the top 10 lowest for investing in rural community capacity. This is a real issue that we have to address here. These rural communities will go away if we don't do something about it. It's very important to us. I choose to live here because I love where I live, but we have to help these communities access these funds. This is what's going to happen. We're going to see continuous population decline in some of our communities if we don't invest in them. We have to talk about, we're going to see workforce continue to go to some of those bigger population areas because they can invest in these things. So it's a really important thing. And what doesn't get done, I know the state of Colorado, they recently invested in grant writers in each of their regional councils. And in the last 9 months, they were able to access 32 million in grants through those grant writers. So it does make a difference. It does create impact, and it's an investment. It's leveraging dollars into your community. I know you guys here have heard me talk about this. I've had long conversations with Josh about this, and I really hope this is something that we can get done this next legislative session. You're going to be hearing about this from all regional councils across the state. So key takeaways today, I hope we all keep working together. That's my #1 thing. I love that. I love the partnerships that I have. I'm eternally grateful for that. We have to keep having these meetings happen. That's so important. We have to continue to fund programs for economic and community development. They are making a difference. Maria's office, Josh's office, Bank of North Dakota, those programs are really critically important to us, and we appreciate them. And then focusing on rural community capacity would be my other thing. And with that, I'm very excited to start this day. Brian Gillick is going to lead our next panel for the day. And again, please have conversations with people throughout the day.
Yes, question.
Yeah.
You had mentioned broadband being an asset with your positive comments, but there's a lot of money available for broadband. Do you have any gaps across Region 8?
To be honest, we heard of a very tiny gap in Billings County, but I believe it was being addressed. That is the limit of it in most of our communities. They had access as rural as it gets. Our farmers, ranchers, for the most part, all have access to high-speed broadband. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? That would be great. Ryan, did I miss anything?
No, I think Stark County has a couple little gaps in broadband that Consolidated is currently working on over on the Belfast side. We had some issues.
Any other questions or comments?
So can you go back to your slide about the legislative session, and you kind of move past that one fairly quickly about regional, back to the regional councils?
This one?
That one, yeah, legislative access. Talk some more about that and kind of how that shapes up and what that looks like.
Okay, well, to be honest, I wasn't gonna make a full pitch today, but hey, Kelvin. We did, we started this discussion last legislative session, and regional councils, they have the staffing. These are people that are already trusted in these communities doing the work. We already had these meetings to talk about these discussions. But right now we receive about 70,000 from the EDA a year to fund these offices. It's very minimal. Not a lot of people to do the work. And so our proposal is that the legislature look at funding regional councils to increase capacity. We would be open to a scope of work, metrics that we would have to meet, funds, committing to leveraging dollars into our area, but really working with those communities. We have so much opportunity in that SEDS plan to do great things. We heard great things, but we don't have the people to do it. It doesn't get there. Our programs, ARWIP, so many of those programs are great, but they don't allow for dollars for administration. And so we figure out how to do the work without dollars to actually make them happen. USDA, very similar. We write those rural business grants, but we have to fund the people to do it. So that is such an important piece. Those grants are not easy. They're not for the light of heart. And it takes a team of people that are knowledgeable to do it. So that's very important. I see head nods happening in the room. Yeah, so I guess our ask would be, we're not asking for all to be funded the same. We think that it should be a request of here's what we can do up to a certain amount. Not all regional councils are equipped to take on the same level of work. We think it's something we could grow into. But yeah, we're ready and willing to do the work. I fully believe investing in these people is what makes us who we are today. Our rec director is the reason those programs happen. Our fairgrounds manager is the reason that comes together. We need bodies on the ground to do the work. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I'll have my panelists make their way up here, and as we kind of get situated here a little bit, I'll just introduce myself. I am Ryan Gillick. I'm the Executive Vice President at Stark Development Corporation in Dickinson. We're the Economic Development Office in Dickinson, and so today we're going to visit a little bit about infrastructure, and we're only going to touch the surface of infrastructure, obviously, in some of this discussion. So the purpose of this panel, as you see in your book, is to dive into the critical infrastructure needs impacting growth in Region 8. We'll discuss the challenges and deficiencies in key areas and explore potential solutions to improve infrastructure resiliency and efficiencies across the region. And first, I have to kind of echo some of the sentiments that were brought up earlier, as we've come a long way in infrastructure. When you look at where we are today versus where we were, a few years ago, and I think a lot of that credit goes to those elected officials in the room that stood up and the work that they've put together and done for us. And so I think that's very admirable where we are today, and it's made some of these vibrant communities that we have. And so I think that's a big thank you goes out to those. Lynn kind of stole my word, tenaciously. I think I use it a little differently. I think we're tenaciously stubborn out here in Region 8 in Western North Dakota. I think we tend to roll up our sleeves and try and we're not afraid of trying to get the work done when we need to make things happen. And I think that's the same reason that we see the success of the Presidential Library and Roosevelt National Park and Medora here and how Teddy Roosevelt kind of saw us as well. And so I think that's a testament to our region, and it's kind of stuck, I think, for the most part. But our needs are very broad and diverse, and so we're going to hear from our three panelists covering water, power, and transportation and roads. And but beyond that, we have so many other needs, and I'll just kind of briefly hit a couple of those highlights and points. Regional air service through Dickinson. We started pulling some numbers here this last week and looking at some of the traffic through there. It really is a regional hub for transportation. And so we've got a new runway. We do need a new terminal. If you went in and out of Dickinson's regional airport, especially in the winter, you really know the lack of services that are there without a terminal. We're also excited to hear some prospects about passenger rail returning along this southern route through the state. I think that's a huge benefit for us. That's a great workforce mover. That's a good resource for tourism. What better way to visit the Presidential Library than to follow in the footsteps of Teddy Roosevelt and come in by train? I think that's a huge opportunity for us on the horizon. You know, as a result, some of the things even up in Dickinson where we are in Stark County, you know, our solid waste facility serves 10 counties and 26 communities. That's a big deal, and we're stressed. I mean, we're stressed at that level too, and so which is great because it means we're growing. And but it doesn't even, we have a lot of need for recycling programs and things like that, and some of those just aren't happening as a result. Solid waste is an issue. The Roosevelt Expressway coming right through Bowman. You know, that's a part of a bigger Ports to Plains project, 110 or 1,100 miles of that. That's 2,300 mile stretch from Canada to Mexico is 4-lane. We're trying to continue that work. That work is being done currently from Watford down to into the bottoms by the north unit of the park. This year, they're going to start moving that south to 22 and then, or to 200, and hopefully, you know, we're working on sending some delegates out to Washington to continue that lobbying effort to get it down to I-94 and then hopefully down the South Dakota border. And so those are all big, but you know, I think when we hear about you know, other infrastructure needs, we've targeted 3 that we've kind of identified here. And so with that, we're pitch hitting a little bit. I see a new face up there. Dr. Travnik was supposed to be here, but for other reasons, she had to cancel. And so Mrs. Murray is taking her place. And so we will welcome them. I was going to do some introductions, but I think I'll maybe have them introduce themselves a little bit, just because I don't have preparation for everybody to introduce themselves. So I think first we'd like to welcome Mr. Brian Hughes from Roads, and have a little presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I did not prepare anything for presentation, just have a few notes. But I work for North Dakota Local Technical Assistance Program under Upper Great Plains Transportation Institute. Some of you may recognize me from North Dakota DOT. I just moved over from DOT after 20+ year career working with local government, so very familiar with this region. I just want to talk about transportation and economic development. You know, it's a healthy transportation network is critical to growth for a number of reasons. One is accessibility. You know, it connects people to jobs, businesses, markets, movement of people and goods. You know, a good system is efficient. You know, there's no restrictions there. There's no load restrictions. You know, people are free to move about as well as move those commodities. You know, it attracts investment. You know, it sends a signal to developers that, hey, this is a thriving community. So it's important that your transportation system is good, up and running. But most importantly, it provides a quality of life. You know, it gets those people to access those services, gets people education, healthcare, those recreational activities that we heard about earlier. But you got to remember, it's not just roads and bridges for that transportation system. It's also, besides roads and bridges, it's railroads that go through communities. It's pedestrian bicycle facilities. It's transit facilities to get those elderly people where they need to be. So since this is the state of the region, I did pull some numbers. This is the last needs assessment study that Upper Great Plains did. So just for your gravel and paved needs down in this region, $1.1 billion is needed just to maintain your existing facilities, your paved and unpaved roadways, $1.1 billion. For your major structures, and for those of you that don't know what a major structure is, that's like your bridge is 20 feet or longer that you got to traverse it. There's a $58 million need to replace those structures. When you look at the number, that's 20% of your structures need replacements out in this region. 18% of them are load posted, which means there's restrictions from heavy movement of loads going across it. So oil and ag commodities need to go around. You know, it's not efficient for them. One of the new stuff, part of the new study that we're doing is gonna have minor structures. And that's a big gap because major structures, there's funding that has been provided from legislation as well as the federal through the DOT. But the minor structures is listed as like an 8-foot to a 20-foot structure that it's kind of a no man's land. They're expensive to replace, but there's no funding out there for them. You can't afford a small culvert. These are it. So legislators asked us to look at that. Some preliminary needs show about a $208 million need for the Southwest region. Those are preliminary numbers. Huge numbers that local agencies cannot afford. Taryn mentioned grant opportunities. So I wrote down some funding opportunities for federal. Like most of these go through the DOT. You know, county roads, federal aid roads, that's through the DOT. They get some funding for that, but not enough. Bridges, that's application based. So we talked about grant writing. Well, it's a simple enough application to do it. It's not like a grant, but it is there. Urban roads, there's only one urban center in this region, and that's in Dickinson. They do get some funding for some of their federal aid roads. There's an urban grant program only available to Dickinson for some downtown improvements. Historic bridge. There's some money available for historic bridges. If you got an old through truss bridge you want to see maintained. DOT has that. Rec trails program. North Dakota Parks and Rec, that helps with those recreational trails for the help with that quality of life. Then there's the TA program, Transportation Alternatives Program. That's something that every county or community should be looking at to help them with their ADA facilities and sidewalks. That program helps, it's an 80-20 cost share, but that helps replace those sidewalks, get some of those ADA improvements, curb ramps, things like that up to speed, safe routes to school. Everybody needs good, safe routes for their children to walk to school. Federal Lands Access Program, that's through Federal Highway. That's a program that helps access federal lands for your roadways. This one's available to counties. It's called the Small Rural Economic Development Program. That's through the DOT. That is kind of to help those communities on those federal aid routes if they have economic development to help with those last roadway improvements. It's not a program that's used very often. There's only been a few times in my history that the DOT that money has been handed out. Then there's the Highway Safety Improvement Program. They help improve safety on your roadways. Application based once a year. Rail Crossing Program to help improve those high priority crossings, make them safe for those vehicles in interaction with railroads. There's a railroad loan program. Then there's federal discretionary grants, and I'll come back to that. Some state aid projects that are out there are special road funds. And that is state funds provided by legislation. That is actually in law. And that helps fund projects to recreational, tourist, and historic areas. Very, very good program. Then there's the flex funding. That's a new program that just came out. You know, that allows counties, townships, cities, and tribal governments to apply for state funds through the DOT. That's a new program. There's about 260 applicants across the state that applied for that. I was down here 2 weeks ago visiting with the townships, and they had a regional meeting down here. So we talked about that a little bit, and I said, how many of you heard about flex funding? I had about 2 out of the 50 that raised their hand. So word needs to get out on that as well. So federal discretionary grants. Taryn mentioned grants earlier. And the way the federal government is going, you know, they offer a lot of grants to local agencies now through the past highway bills. And the one thing you got to be aware of is they are cumbersome, they are labor intensive, they do cost a lot. When I was at the DOT was hiring consultants because they did not have enough people to write those grants. They were paying anywhere from a small grant application, $10,000, all the way up to $50,000 per grant application. So that is very expensive and time consuming. And that's what the DOT providing them most of the data that they needed to back that up. So since there's so many legislators in the room, I got a little quiz for them. So when I was at the DOT, I oversaw the oil impact funds that went to all the counties across the state through 3 bienniums. Who wants to guess on the amount of dollars that was provided to all the counties, oil and non-oil producing, over those 3 bienniums?
200 million.
Wait. Oh, okay. We got one guess of 200 million. Do you have another guess? I'll tell you it's higher.
About 2 billion.
Not quite that much.
I said about, but. It's penciled up, but yeah, they're starting from like 2011, on what we've done so far. Because like 85 is the lowest, and then bridge is bigger place there, we're pushing 400 or 500 million there. And we look across the state, that's why.
Okay. Yeah, if you include what was provided to the state, then yes, you would be approaching $2 billion that legislators have provided. I was just, anything that came through my office went to counties, just went to the counties. It was $0.9 billion that legislators provided to counties across the state over those 3 bienniums. And a lot of that distribution was based on the Upper Great Plains needs study, and it was prorated. And the costs just keep going up, and the maintenance needs still keep going up. So there's always a need for infrastructure improvements. So I'm glad to see legislators in the room today because it's still needed. So if there's any questions, I'll take those, or I can turn it back over to you, Ryan.
If there's quick questions, we can always open up for questions again. Okay. Thank you. I think next we'll have Mrs. Lavender have her presentation from Basin Electric, and she's the project coordination representative, right? Okay. Thank you.
Look at my haircut. Oh, something moved. Anyway, that was more balanced when I put it together. So my name's Erin Lavender. I'm with Basin Electric. I'm a 21+ year employee of the cooperative, or a lifetime, whichever way you want to look at it. I was born and raised and still currently live in the heart of North Dakota's coal country. My dad was a lead electrician at the Leland Old Station. He retired after about 34 years of service. And my grandfather actually helped get Basin Electric's very first power plant, Leland Old Station unit number 1, online back in the 1960s. So this is a business that I have been immersed in my entire life. I'm only going to bring up this other bit of my bio for a very relevant reason, because we keep hinting at it in the background, but I'm a co-founder of the only child care center in Mercer County, with a license of 77. And just FYI, the city of Beulah has no licensed child care anymore. And our center in Hazen is in grave financial conditions. So anybody wants to talk child care later, come talk to me. I have opinions. All right, but back to energy, back to this other piece of critical infrastructure. Now, I'm not going to sit here and assume that everybody in the room understands the connection of Basin Electric to this region. So I'm going to take a little bit of time and make sure that we're all on the same page. So Basin Electric is a generation and transmission cooperative. So it's our job to generate those electrons, send it over high voltage transmission, and we deliver it to our member co-ops, and they're the ones who ultimately deliver it to the person at the end of the line. We serve a service territory much broader than what we see here in North Dakota. Of course, we've got a lot of infrastructure here in the state, but we ultimately serve cooperatives all the way down to New Mexico, actually 141 of them total. So we do serve a broad swath of the center of the United States. Those co-ops ultimately only serve about 3 million consumers, so that one statistic that really paints a picture of how incredibly rural the areas are that we serve. In fact, I've learned I've been kind of using that word rural all wrong. A good chunk of our service territory qualifies as frontier. We don't even qualify as rural.
And that matters, especially for distribution cooperatives as they're looking at funding for reaching those people in that last mile of line, or last 5 miles if they live at the end there. So I bring this up just because I want to show you, again, illustrate where District 8 fits into the big picture. So the cooperatives served in your region, or that serve your region, are right around here. So we technically fall under Basin's membership district, District 8, Upper Missouri. And so this is how this all flows. So the electricity goes one way, the governance goes another, all right? And I think this is very important as we talk about serving some of the most rural areas of our country and of our state, is that cooperatives are particularly well suited to do this. And in particular, our governance structure, because the people who are buying our electricity are calling the shots in the boardroom. So just know that locally, you're served, Region 8 is served largely by Slope Electric, Rough Rider Electric. The electricity that Basin Electric supplies does not go directly to them. It's delivered to an intermediate power supply cooperative called Upper Missouri. So Upper Missouri is the one that gets the power bill from Basin. And Upper Missouri then takes those electrons and sends it on to Rough Rider, Slope, and their other member cooperatives. So I just wanted to go through that real quick primer with you. Now, to meet all the needs of our member cooperatives, we have to invest significantly in generation and transmission infrastructure. And so if you look at all of Basin's generating resources, so where those electrons come from, this is just a snapshot of these little icons show where all of our generating resources are at. So it's not just in North Dakota, but we have power plants in North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, and in Iowa, we purchase from a member cooperative down there that owns assets. So that's where the electrons are coming from. You can see Western North Dakota has a large concentration of that. Now, Basin Electric is fortunate in that our cooperatives continue to grow, and I'll talk a little bit more about that lately. But as we've grown, we've diversified. So when I first started at Basin, I started full-time officially in 2002, but we were coal. That was our story. We were coal. Now you see the most recent year that our numbers are solidified for. You see that our portion of coal has gone down, but it's not because we've divested in any coal. In fact, we have invested in coal in that meantime. We actually built a brand new coal unit north of Gillette in 2011. So we really do live, breathe, and walk an all of the above energy solution. So we can have all the power plants in the world, but we can't, it doesn't do us any good if we don't have the wires to get them there. And this is a big point of investment for Basin right now. I know these little squigglies on this map here, those are the lines that we have, over 2,500 miles of high voltage. So anything 115 kV and up. In your neck of the woods, in fact, I drove right by it on the way down here. This is our Belfield terrain line. That's a 230 kV line. That's been constructed within the last 15 years. I gotta be honest, I can't remember when we did that one. I have lost track. But in addition to all the lines we have 11 different outposts where we employ people to maintain all of this. It's a whole different ballgame maintaining high voltage transmission lines. In fact, when we hire linemen, we have to hire journeymen. We don't own voltages small enough for apprentices to complete an apprenticeship program with us. All our stuff is big stuff. And a lot of this stuff, they work on live. You don't want to take down a 345 kV line that so many others are depending on. So a lot of that maintenance happens when those lines are live. So that's a whole different ballgame. Those guys are wild. All right. So let's talk about what we're doing to meet that growth that I alluded to earlier, those investments in infrastructure. So we're fortunate enough, we have just recently completed our most recent load forecast. Turn back the clock 20 years when I first started, we do these load forecasts every 5-10 years. The world moves so much more quickly now. We are doing our load forecasts every year. So much of so across our membership, so we're not just talking here in North Dakota, but across our membership, we're going to average about a 3.2% load growth. And that's not just oil and gas. We're talking value-added agriculture. We're talking CO2, these potential hydrogen hubs. data centers, cryptocurrency, all of these large loads that our member co-ops will potentially serve. So we need to look at those loads, look at our crystal ball, and our crystal ball really isn't a crystal ball at all. What our crystal ball is our relationship with our member co-ops. They're the ones that are getting phone calls about these new loads. They're the ones that are going to ultimately serve them, but we have a contractual obligation to serve whatever they serve. So we need to make sure that we've got the generation and transmission there to serve these big loads that are coming in, if they come in. So how do we do that? We've got a few broad strategies that are kind of slam dunk anytime. Of course, we're going to continue to operate the plants that we have. We're going to continue to invest in their reliability and their maintenance. We are also making some additions to generation and transmission. The vast majority of those investments are in Western North Dakota. I'll detail those in a minute. But the other thing is that kind of is quietly in the background is that we work with our power pool. About 75% of the load that Basin Electric serves is within something called the Southwest Power Pool. Now, the Southwest Power Pool is, you can think of it kind of like an air traffic controller. So they're the ones with the big computer. Yeah, they're a long ways away. They're down in Little Rock, Arkansas. But they are looking at not just Basin Electric, but all the other utilities within their footprint. And their job is to balance that generation with that load. So we give them a little bit of control over our units. We tell them how much they can move them. And on a real-time basis, they're ramping them up, ramping them down to make sure that balance is happening between the generation and the load. See, electricity is unique, and we don't really think about it. We really take it for granted. But electricity is the only commodity that is created the second it is used. There's talk of batteries and things like that, but the volume at which we're using electricity, there is no real utility scale practical way to store it. You don't put it in a grain bin somewhere and pull it out when you need it. You have to be generating it somewhere. So really, this piecemeal way that humanity has created their grids over the years has really essentially built the most complex machine ever created. If you talk to the CEO of the Southwest Power Pool, I'm kind of paraphrasing a quote from her, but it is absolutely true. So that complexity is part of why it's such a challenge to serve ultimately.
Say, Aaron,
Yes.
3.2% growth, is that this region, North Dakota, or your service territory?
That's our entire service territory. I will tell you a good chunk of that is Western North Dakota. We just, I actually just saw these numbers a couple days ago and I have not seen a drill down. So I can't tell you by district where this might be. So where are these investments? How have we been fueling this growth? Because we have had I was almost going to say consistent growth. We have had growth. I don't know about how consistently we can predict these things. There was a lull for a while where we didn't think that boom in Western North Dakota was going to continue as it was, but by golly, it has. And so over the past 15 years, it's been over $1 billion. Now for our financial forecast, we're looking at over $5 billion in investments to make sure that we can meet our member cooperatives needs. So that's a lot. That's a lot of investment, and I'll show you where some of that is going to be. So you might recognize that gal wearing the hard hat. Pioneer Generation Station Phase 4. So this is north of Williston. So we need some more electrons in the region. We call it the Williston Load Pocket, which I know is a little ways away from where you are here physically, but I will tell you the grid, it is all connected. There are ripples that happen in the transmission system if there are deficiencies anywhere. So these investments here ultimately help the reliability of the entire region, the entire footprint. But we're adding some natural gas generators, about $800,000 worth. $800 million worth. Yeah, well, gosh, man, if we could build that much for 800,000, we'd be good. No, $800 million worth of generators going into service by 2026. Northwest of Williston, we call it Phase 4 because we already have some existing natural gas generators there. We just bought the land next door and we're just tying into all of our own existing infrastructure. We're also exploring the potential of another, what we call a dispatchable natural gas generation somewhere also in the Williston Load Pocket. By the end of the year, we would hope to have be able to narrow down a location for that. Other alternatives we're looking at, we put out a request for proposal. It might make sense for somebody else to build that, but I'll tell you, I think Basin's pretty good at it. We've been operating and maintaining a variety of different generators since 1960s. 1966 is when our first power plant came online, so I think we know what we're doing. So we'll see what those that research produces, but we want to have something else online by 2030. Transmission, this is significant. In your neck of the woods, round up to Coomer Ridge, this is a little over 32 miles of high voltage transmission line. So not a long line, but a critical line. We just had a Public Service Commission hearing for this in Killdeer a couple weeks ago. We're awaiting their decision. We applied for a permit with them. We're ready to rock with it. We've got construction crews ready to go. It is essential for reliability in the region. Basically, the situation we are in is that if there's a very critical line a little bit further to the west, if we lose that line, there's an entire 300 some megawatts of load, of people trying to do their business north of Killdeer that will fall off. And it's all critical in energy infrastructure. So we don't want that to happen. So building this line will help solve for that. But in the meantime, we've got some pretty brilliant engineering staff who are again working with Southwest Power Pool. They're putting into place something called a remedial action scheme. And really it's kind of like a computer program that's going to help reroute in the event that we lose that critical feed, reroute power to help keep the lights on. It's of particular importance in the summertime where our existing transmission system is generally stressed to the max, and its carrying capacity is actually reduced a little bit in the summertime just due to the physics of the wires and yeah, Tammy knows. she's told this stuff before, she understands, so that's great. And so we've got that to kind of help get us through until we get that line built, which we hope to get done by the end of the year. So we're going to work on this very quickly. A couple other significant transmission investments in the works. We're going to essentially complete a 345 kilovolt loop around Lake Sakakawea. We've already got like half the loop around the western edge of Lake Sakakawea. Now we're looking at another 175 miles of 345 kV line. I throw around these numbers. It's like an interstate highway for electrons. Okay, it can carry a lot of electricity, and that's great. And this is going to be, this is also going to help with some of those reliability concerns in North Dakota. Right now, our right-of-way crews are out talking to landowners. So we're just right now trying to route it. We haven't gotten very far with that yet. That's a long ways, but there will also be a new substation, kind of a hop-off point for that electricity too along that project. We're also working on two 230 kV lines, going into Canada from around the Tioga area. So that was it. That one's kind of a different project. Generally our projects are kind of member driven, assigned through the Southwest Power Pool. This one was assigned through the Southwest Power Pool. They said, hey, Basin, you're best equipped to build this transmission line, but this transmission line is needed to serve load in Canada. So it's a unique situation for us. We accepted the assignment, and so we're working on routing those lines as well. So I kind of already stole Roundup to Coomer Ridge thunder. I talked about it before I got to this slide, but this is a kind of a map of all those projects I talked about. So this is the one that's most relevant to your immediate area in Region 8, but this is what we're calling the East Loop, the Leland Old Station to Tandy. This represents about 175 miles of high voltage transmission line there. And these are the two 230 kV circuits that we're working on routing that would go up into Canada, into Saskatchewan. And then this is about a 15-mile high voltage line that'll connect our new generators to the grid there. So We had, we also just recently had a public service commission meeting for this one, or hearing for this one, so we're waiting on decisions on this line and this line, so we can get going on them. I'm happy to say that, when we're thinking about challenges and opportunities as far as investing in energy infrastructure in North Dakota, I'm happy to say that one of our challenges is not working with the state of North Dakota. This has been a wonderful state to do business. I think other states are actually envious of us and how we can get projects done. Where some of our challenges lie is forecasting those future needs, and most certainly, I was talking to Leonard Hibble from Rough Rider just yesterday, and he was telling me about the phone calls that Rough Rider gets from speculators that we want to build a big data center here, we want to build this, we want to build that, and their phones are literally ringing off the hook. Now, how are they to determine what's real and what's speculative? The vast majority of those calls are speculative, but even the ones that seem like they might be real, there was a firm that was supposed to fly in. Yep, we've got a building, we're gonna build something here, you guys are gonna serve it. He's like, all right, well, let's talk. Yep, flights coming into Dickinson, they never came. So even the ones that seem like they're gonna be real are getting to be a bit challenging. So that's one of the challenges on the Basin Electric side, is understanding our load forecasts, understanding our members' needs. Where are these very large loads going to be located? How real are they? What are the, if they've got federal funding, what are the chances that they're gonna make it through every round? Answering those questions is definitely a very big challenge, and it's something that our board is very focused on, is kind of teasing out those answers, because these are big investments. We are obligated to serve our member co-ops, so if they get a nice new big load on their service territory, that's great, and it's our obligation to serve. But it's also our obligation to be great stewards to our cooperative members' assets as well. So we're not going to build facilities willy-nilly if they're not necessary. So and timing of those investments, I kind of already alluded to that as well. Regulations, our biggest concerns are particularly federal overreach. Without getting into the weeds on that, I like to, I can speak from personal experience that we don't mess in our own nest. We've got very good, very well-run power plants. They talk to any contractors that do work, and they appreciate even just the industrial hygiene at our facilities. So we take issue with any kind of federal overreach regulations that are not going to provide any human benefit, but come with significant costs. So that's kind of the burr in our saddle there. Opportunities, we're using some of this opportunity in this growth to update our aging infrastructure. We've got some of our substations, like at Leland Old Station, Antelope Valley Station. We're switching out some aging gear that is going to help with the reliability and resiliency of our grid. We're happy to do that. Leaning into our all of the above energy strategy. We're not gonna be building any coal plants anytime soon. That's no secret. Natural gas, yes. Wind, yes. Solar, yes. This is a solar project. We have this is in South Dakota in the Rapid City area. Basin Electric did not build it. We don't own it. We don't operate it, but another company did, and we purchased that output from it. But this represents some of the first utility scale solar that we have incorporated into our portfolio as well. So that's an opportunity going forward. And of course, being a cooperative in your own backyard, it's always a joy to be fueling our state's economic diversification, being deeply entrenched in the energy industry. I like seeing different flavors too, so.
Would you go back to the slide that shows your generation words?
Yeah, absolutely.
Reminder.
I am a power plant geek, so let's talk. People think I'm a little off. I did kind of grow up in a power plant. Where did it?
It was.
Oh, it's way early. Yep, you're right. Right here. Oh, one more.
Yeah.
There we go.
No, just go back to the next. There you go. Perfect.
So we are updating these numbers. We always do a year look back as part of our annual report process. So we added some wind to that, but interesting to note that it's a story that I don't think electric co-ops tell a lot, but we've been significantly investing in wind for decades. In fact, 24% of our capacity is wind. Does that mean that that's meeting 24% of our members' needs every day? No, not at all. But we do have that. And then we've also got the spinning iron in the background, that gas and coal, make sure that your lights stay on when the wind doesn't blow.
Describe recovered energy.
Oh, sure, recovered energy generation. Okay, these are little guys. These are fun. So we've got the Northern Border Pipeline that goes kitty corner across, you can literally see it. It's just kind of where all the generation is, right? So our recovered energy projects are the ones, these guys right here. So those are little power plants that are hooked up to compressor stations along the Northern Border Pipeline. They're constructed, owned and operated by a company called Ormat Technologies. But what they do is they capture the heat, the waste heat from the compressor stations, and it vaporizes the fluid, and that turns the turbine and generator set. Now, each one of those is only about 5.5 megawatts, and how much they put out depends on how hard the compressor stations are running. So we call them like quasi base load. You can kind of depend on them, but they're only recovering heat. So they're fun little technology. They're in very remote areas, so I've only actually seen them about twice. Pretty nondescript. Good.
All right, and then last but certainly not least, we'll hear from Jen from Southwest Water and discuss water in there.
Thank you, Ryan. As you can see, I am not Dr. Travnik. As you can imagine, being the director of the Department of Water Resources, you need to be where the water issues are. And right now, Bismarck Mandan is dealing with a mild to moderate flood issue at the Fox Hill portion of the river. So
You want me to?
yeah,
Where are we at through these?
so I'll just introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Murray, and I am the manager CEO for Southwest Water Authority. The Southwest Water Authority is an entity that manages, operates, and maintains the Southwest Pipeline project for the state of North Dakota. I've been with Southwest Water Authority for about 11 years now, in the manager position for since the beginning of 2022. So fairly new to the manager position, but not new to water. So the Department of Water Resources, it was reorganized in 2021 during the legislative session with House Bill 1435, I believe was the number. It used to be the State Water Commission, the Office of the State Engineer. So with that bill that reorganized it, it did make it a cabinet position or cabinet office for the governor, and a director was appointed to that office, which would be Dr. Travnik. In the time that she has been there and over the course of the last 4 years, they put together a strategic plan, re-envisioned how to move forward managing North Dakota's water resources. So their mission is to responsibly manage North Dakota's water needs and risks for the people's benefit. With a vision of Department of Water Resources will sustainably manage and develop North Dakota's water resources for the health, safety, and prosperity of its people, business, ag, energy, industry, recreation, and natural resources. With values of fairness, objectivity, accountability, responsiveness, engagement, credibility. And then they pledge to use professional and scientific methods to maintain the highest standards of delivery services. So, with the flood issue, I was just given these slides this morning, so I apologize if it's a little rocky. The Department of Water Resources is organized, but as I mentioned, it is in cabinet office of the governor. So he is the residing person at the top there. The State Water Commission is governed, he is the chair for that water commission with 8 appointed members and the ag commissioner sitting on that commission as well. The director of the department, also Andrea, serves as the secretary for that commission. The department itself is organized into 6 different divisions with administrative, atmospheric, planning and education, regulatory, appropriation, and water development. The State Water Commission, as I mentioned, it has 8 appointed members with the governor and the ag commissioner serving as the chairs of that commission. We are very blessed to have Lieutenant Governor sit on that commission most of the time, so thank you for all the work that you do with that. There are 8 appointed members. This region of the state actually has 2 commissioners that touch this region of the state. The first is Jay Volk, and he is with the Lower Missouri River Basin. And then there's Director James Oderman with the Little Missouri Upper Heart and Upper Cannonball River. Commissioner Odeman is also the chairman for Southwest Water Authority. So the focus of the Department of Water Resources is to manage North Dakota's water resources. There's 600 million acre feet of water within aquifers in North Dakota, 7,000 river miles, including major rivers and tributaries, and 7 of North Dakota's largest lakes and reservoirs cover 863,000 acres. The Department of Water Resources recently just embarked on the Know Your Aquifer campaign. There's more information on that within their website. I can say I don't know a whole lot about it, so go to the website to check out the Know Your Aquifer campaign with the Department of Water Resources. The Department of Water Resources functions to manage North Dakota resources further as they pertain to water. They allocate the water, they develop the water, they run the cost share policy. Cost share policy is the opportunity for local sponsors to come to the State Water Commission to share in funding for water projects, whether that's water supply, flood control, snagging, clearing. They do drainage and construction permits, drone initiatives. They have a drought livestock assistance program. So in times of severe drought, there is assistance to rural communities and to ag producers, ranchers, farmers to make sure that their cattle and ag continues to function when it pertains to water. They do the floodplain management plan, investigation surveys, LIDAR, map services. If you're ever interested in anything water back to the dawn of time, the State Water Commission website is a plethora of information. It has everything from surveys to water levels, water flows through the river. One of their newer initiatives is the presens, which are little devices that they put into rivers, lakes to monitor flows, to monitor temperatures, to monitor all kinds of things. The state of North Dakota and their water resources are light years ahead of other states when it comes to knowing what we have and how to manage it. So the State Water Commission, water development across the state of North Dakota is funded through the Resources Trust Fund. The Resources Trust Fund is 20.5% of the oil and gas extraction tax for the state of North Dakota. So years where oil is in high production and doing really well, water is also doing really well. Years where it's not, we need to spread the love. There's not a lot to go around. We divide our needs into what we call our buckets. So the Southwest Pipeline Project, Southwest Water Authority, and the NOS project, which is the other state-owned project, are considered capital assets of the state. They are in the capital assets bucket. Mouse River, I think this says flood control. I'm not quite sure. And then there's water supply, rural, general water, and then discretionary funds. So the budget for the 23-25 biennium was actually $621 million for water development, which is phenomenal. We were, the state is very blessed to have a system set up the way that it was. Rich has been a great proponent of that, former Senator Warner, excuse me. So the Southwest Pipeline Project in the 23-25 biennium was allocated for $80 million in new funding for the projects that we have planned. Economic development within the region, within the state is always relevant. It always pertains to the water availability. So this map shows all of the aquifers within North Dakota. As you can tell, our region of the state does not have aquifer, does not have water availability, basically underground. So the State Water Commission and their team does a great job with monitoring how much water is appropriated, how much water is available, places where, economic possibilities are capable or are possible due to the water availability. When it comes to surface water, we in North Dakota, again, we have the Missouri River, we have Lake Sakakawea, we have more water available to us than we know what to do with at the moment. But it's trying to get that out there into the world. Southwest Pipeline Project is the water supply project that serves all of Southwest North Dakota. And our supply is Lake Sakakawea. So it brings water all the way from the lake down to this area. Just a little history on the Southwest Pipeline project. It is an authorized project by the North Dakota legislature. It was authorized in 1981 after several attempts to bring water to the region by the Southwest Water Supply, the West River Diversion. Finally, the Southwest Pipeline project was authorized. It is the first multi-county, fully integrated regional water supply system in North Dakota. So that means that we serve both water to communities, we serve water directly to rural customers, to homesteads, and we also serve ag customers such as pasture calves and then we do have some industrial users as well, such as Red Trail Energy. We are a capital asset of the state of North Dakota. The pipeline project has a project manager within the Department of Water Resources. And then Southwest Water Authority, that's my position. I am responsible for the management, operations, and maintenance of the project once it's constructed. I am managed or I'm governed by a 15-member board of directors. Director Shibley is in the audience right here. And then the Department of Water Resources is responsible for the construction administration, design oversight of the project, and then the State Water Commission is the owner of the project and they approve all things and govern the project itself. So this is us by the numbers. It's actually closer to 8,000 rural customers at the moment. We serve 13 counties south and west of the Missouri River, 33 communities, a population of about 58,000 or 7.4% of the state. Population is only 7.4% of the state, but the area that we cover is almost 25%. So it's very rural, very sparsely populated. The total cost since inception, since 1981, to construct the project is $692 million. That includes some of our future plans as well. Last year, we sold 2.3 billion gallons of water and distributed that through 5.3 thousand miles of pipeline. For the 23-25 biennium, we have a lot of things still under construction, still working on. The things in yellow here are planned projects. Our board of directors has put forth an initiative to look towards our future. In that, there is the capacity within our main transmission line so that it doesn't limit growth. We are looking at doing smaller hydraulic improvement projects so that we can connect some people from our waiting list. And then we're also looking at going back into those underserved areas to finally get water to those people that wait. Those underserved areas and some of those strategic improvement areas. I really liked what Aaron said, that this isn't just rural, it's almost frontier at times. There are customers, water is important and all of these customers that want water are important, but it's just really hard to get to them sometimes. Some of our ongoing projects, we are doing some hydraulic improvements in 4 separate areas within our system, Billings County, Sloat County. These are just some parallel pipelines and booster stations to, as I mentioned before, to get some people off of our waiting list. The Southwest Pipeline project, I guess I want to say that we don't have a capacity problem. We don't have a problem with water. We have a distribution problem, getting the water to the people. And then we are also working on some main transmission improvements, especially to our west zone. So that means from Dickinson all the way over to Beach, to include some of those areas that want growth, that are looking for economic development. The Medora projects all the way from Dickinson to Beach so that we can make sure that it's not a limiting factor in all things economic. So this slide shows the funding for the project in the last 12 years. So as I mentioned, our project can only move forward when there's funding available. We are a state-owned project that gets our resources from the Resources Trust Fund. So over the last 12 years, $218 million has been spent on the project. And every year there's funding available, we are able to do something to help our customers get water. But we still have a lot left to do. As I mentioned, we don't have a capacity problem per se. It's more of a distribution problem. Right now, we have 756 people on waiting lists throughout our system. These are not just confined to one section or one area of our service area, as you can see within every county, except for Oliver. There are people that are waiting for water. I do have to mention, the sooner we know, the sooner we are able to start planning for future projects. So if there are areas or homesteads or industries, something that's planning on coming in, the sooner we know, the sooner we can start to develop and plan for those projects. Aaron had said earlier too that Rough Rider gets calls all the time for future development. Water is the same way. We get calls all the time for people who want water. It's very location dependent. So the sooner we know, the sooner we can maybe help guide economic growth to where the water is. And then with our strategic improvements, we have developed a prioritization criteria. So we are prioritizing our projects, number one, on where there's waiting lists and high concentrations of waiting lists, you know, that high density, low cost area, best bang for the buck kind of thing. Overall demand, so that's our number of people on the waiting list, and then longevity of the waiting list. We've been under construction since 1981. Our first community, which was Dickinson, received water in 1991. And since then, we have just, steadily built out. But those people that were built last on the waiting list, or last in our service area, and now are waiting for water, might have to wait a little bit longer because we're trying to capture those people that have been waiting the longest. And then we're also taking into consider their future potential development, whether that's for homes or for industry or economy of any sort. So it seems to be the end of the slide. I'm open to any questions, and thank you for putting this on, Senator Kessel and Regional Council. It's wonderful.
I got a question. If you go back to the slide of the people that are waiting for service yet,
Yes.
if that was fulfilled, you have capacity, any excess capacity after that's all filled, or are you tapped out on capacity?
So as I mentioned, capacity is not that we don't have the water, it's a distribution issue. So some of the lines where people want water, you know, they were constructed almost 30 years ago and they're 2-inch line. We can't put any more people on it without sacrificing the service to the people that are already connected. So we continue to look for creative solutions when it comes to economic development, when it comes to industry. But the more we know and the sooner we know, the better we're able to plan for more capacity, larger lines in strategic locations. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Well, I guess my question was, if we have $60 billion worth of investment coming in, we're gonna need industrial water for them folks. If we tap it out to fill these customers' needs, how are we gonna promote industry and business if they don't have that resource as well? What does that look like for Southwest North Dakota? How can we economically grow and develop if we're short on them resources?
That's a great question. We continue to look for solutions. We're working with a couple of industries right now to, whether it's buy-in from that industry themselves to help us upgrade our lines or make sure that we have strategic infrastructure in where they want it. Other than that, you know, we just have to keep working with people and knowing as much as we can, as early as we can. Joanne.
Jen, you know, we, in our area, especially with the drought years, thank you. Especially with the drought years, and I'm talking Dunn County, we have a lot of ag that needs water. And it doesn't have to be processed water or however you want to say it. And I know you have a line that comes down, I think Highway 8.
Yes.
Is there any talk of extending that so ag producers can tap into that?
So right now we have a raw water line all the way from the lake to Dodge, south to Richardson, and then over to Dickinson. It is a 30-year-old line, so there are some infrastructure concerns with it. We don't want to run it too hard in case there are issues there. But we have been working on an additional intake structure at Lake Sakakawea for quite some time. Our intake currently is shared with Basin Electric for all of our water needs. And once that intake structure is completed, there is an implementation plan for additional raw water lines all the way down. So with those additional lines should be additional capacity. But it will just take time and completion of that intake structure.
Is that something you can share with us as far as where? The route?
The route will largely follow what is already there. So as I mentioned, like we don't want to go across country because that's not real efficient. So it's mostly along those highways that go from our ZAP water treatment plants down to Dodge, down to Richardson. And if there's capacity there, we are more than happy to serve customers with it. Any other questions? Thank you.
Any questions for anyone else on the panel from the group? Okay, well, thank you very much. I'll just leave the panel maybe with one quick little one word, or, give me a thought, a word, a phrase from each of you of what you see as the greatest potential for growth in Region 8. I mean, it's just a quick thought, just to kind of leave the group with. Who wants to be put on the spot first? Nobody has a quick thought from a perspective of each of your resources.
Well, it's our obligation to serve, so whatever growth you guys want to see in your counties will be there.
Sounds good.
I wish I had it quite as easy.
I wish I had it quite as easy as that, but I guess the main thing that I can say is that we need to know early. I know that, industry comes in quick and they want to do it right now, but the sooner we know, the better off we are.
Can I just ask a question for that? So when we get an RFP from the Department of Commerce, they want an answer within a week
Oh, I know.
on our water capacity. And right now, we don't, I guess Ryan could maybe comment more to that, what that looks like from an economic development standpoint, but what's your experience with that?
Well, it is a major challenge because we don't know, and yet I think part of what we don't know is trying to come up with that plan of how do we respond to those questions, because some of those projects might be 3, 4, 5 years out. And so what is that? How early is too early to know? And what does that look like? And I think bringing that capacity in, I think, that additional intake, the additional infrastructure that's there, and I think expanding, Southwest Water doesn't necessarily have a mission of serving industrial customers. That was never really put in place. And so that's a challenge that we have in this area. As you see that aquifer map, we just don't have the access to water here that we can tap into. So it does create some major challenges for us, like Taryn said, when we get these projects coming in from Department of Commerce that are getting RFPs to clients and customers. And I think subsequently we've lost quite a few opportunities out here that we have everything else in play, but maybe just don't have that ability to capture water. I know, like in the city of Dickinson, we have the sewage recycling plant, and so we are able to absolutely sell and reuse that reused water out there, and it is a resource that we can tap into, but we have infrastructure needs there, and that needs to be expanded too as a result. But yeah, it is definitely a challenge.
Yeah, I guess on the transportation side, any industry that's coming into any area, try and focus them on where you have your quality roads to start with, if you have some limitations out there. And then work on feeding those limitations as far as getting additional funding to take care of those restrictions. And make sure planning and zoning is a big issue as well. Make sure you have planning and zoning, take care of that. Depending on the traffic coming out of those facilities, that can hugely impact your infrastructure needs as far as turn lanes, other things like that, as far as safety. The one thing you want to make sure is that there's safety for the people going in and out of that facility, as well as the commodities coming in and out of there. A lot of times that gets overlooked. An industry will buy a piece of land and they have no idea on the safety impacts that they could have with the amount of traffic coming in and out of there.
All right, well, thank you. And thank you to our panelists. Thank you for your attention.
Well, I think we're gonna give you all a 10-minute break. Use the restroom, grab some coffee, water. Our next panel is gonna talk to you about economic development, potential opportunities here in Southwest North Dakota. So see you back here in 10 minutes.
We're, questions? Yes. You got it. Good. It would be.
Great understanding.
Okay. We will. And have everyone here.
So, yeah, I mean, I think they talked to Tom, but he would be, I'd be happy with them. If the touch point, their parts.
No, they haven't got, they're looking for you. Yeah, they are.
Okay.
We're gonna get this started. We're gonna have a panel today to talk about future economic opportunities for Southwest North Dakota. We've talked a lot about different industries, and I think these people today are gonna talk about future potential in different areas of that. And then after that, former Senator Rich Wardner is gonna talk to us about property tax and how that could potentially impact our communities. So with that, I am gonna let our panelists introduce themselves. We encourage questions and we'll open it up for that afterwards. So I'll start with Amy.
I've got a haircut too. Hi, my name is Amy McCann, and I am a Medora resident of 11 years. My family and I moved there, and I have 2 sons. They love Western North Dakota. They're hunters and fishermen, so this is like, you know, their pleasuring ground, just as Theodore Roosevelt had it. So we're very grateful to be living in that community and living in Western North Dakota. We absolutely love it. It is a fantastic place to raise your kids, and it's a wonderful place. So thank you. I am, let's see. There, I went the other way. Keep going. Yeah, no, it's okay. There I am. I feel very fortunate to be a part of this project, and I've been talking about the project for the last 3 years now. We've been in design, and we finally have entered into construction June of last year. So we, what I love most about this design is that it is a living library. It's not just about the building, it's about the landscape as well. We all love our landscape. We all love Western North Dakota, and this building blends in with that. It is a part of the land. The roof is planted with native grasses and native forbs, and just the design itself is unique. It's something that hasn't been done before, and it's being done here in Western North Dakota. It's something to be very proud of. So we embrace the Badlands. We will be a model of sustainability. We have some world-class engineers that have been working on this building, and we have huge sustainability goals. Goals that go beyond anything that is out there, to the point where we're making our own TR goals, and it will be a place for people in that industry of architecture and engineering to come and learn as well. Some of our people that are working on this have already been talking about bringing their groups out to the library, so that, because it will be a showcase for architecture and engineering as well. And then, of course, we're honoring the ecological systems around us through our native plant project that we've partnered with NDSU Hettinger. They will, as of this summer, they will have 6 acres of native plants, about 33 different species growing there that will feed this property, this land over a couple of years, but then also can become a legacy and help other facilities as well and other lands. So just to give you an update on where we are, we have established all of the roads to grade. We have also have our 200 and I believe it's 219 geothermal wells now in our parking lot here. And then we have all of our mesic prairies have been established, and that will be planted this year as well to catch a lot of that rainwater in the area. The current building status, so I'll show you a picture here in a minute, but the retaining walls are up on the east building. So we have an east building and a west building. In the east building, all of our footings are done, and our auditorium walls are going up right now as well. In the west building, all that you see that is in gray, all of those footings have been put in place. What you see in blue is almost complete now, and then all of the rest should be done by April. On March 28th, we are going to be setting up our cranes, and on April 1st through the 3rd, we'll have some of our first steel deliveries to the site, and we'll be erecting our first steel on that day. What we are really proud to say is that about 75% of our construction workers are coming out of Dickinson as a local construction. And those people that are coming out and working every day, they are proud to be there. They're excited. You can see the excitement. You can see that pride. This is a unique building. It is not square. It is shaped, and it has its own challenges, and these construction workers have been stepping up to the plate to meet those challenges. And because we have such high sustainability goals, it's kind of scary. It is a little bit intimidating to see like what we're doing, but we're telling them we're in it together. We're here to help our construction manager, J.E. Dunn, and our architects, JLG and Snohetta, are amazing people in helping educate and leading the way in this type of construction. We are on track to open on July 4th of 2026. It is our semi-quincentennial of our country. It's our 250th anniversary of our country. It's a great day to celebrate the grand opening of the library. And I tell you what, we have so many people working on keeping us on track for this date. And it is a constant check and balances. Are we on track? Are we on track? What can we do? What are the challenges that we have? And then how can we overcome them? And the team that we have that are put together, they come up with solutions all the time. And they are constantly working together to keep us on track for this day. And it makes me feel good whenever I'm going out and promoting this date, whenever I see them working really hard and getting us on this date as well. It's just around the corner. So in Medora, we knew this was coming and it was going to make a change. And we worked with all of our stakeholders in the area. We have quite a bit of them to come up with a Medora area plan. And this helps guide that growth because we love Medora. We all love Medora. And there's a special connection that we all have there, and we want to make sure that we preserve that connection through the growth that we will have. And so in this area plan, it is on the Billings County website. So if you do want to look at it more in depth, you can find it there. But it told us a lot of things that we already knew. We know that the hotels are completely maxed out. We know that our restaurants are always at max and there's long waiting periods. And so we know that there is that demand there that we're not meeting, that can filter out. And we do have challenges. We have land challenges because we are surrounded by the beautiful national park and surrounded by the national grasslands. So we are limited in our growth. And we also know that our tourism has a peak, has a season. And as the library, we're going to be open year round. And we've been working for the last couple of years on strategies of how do we get people on the shoulder seasons. And then we just started working on some of our pricing of, can we have discounts in our low seasons to start drawing more tourism in our lower seasons with a lower price. And so we're looking at different ways of trying to draw more people to the area in those shoulder seasons and in those lower seasons. We've been pushing the TR Triangle, and I love hearing other people talk about it. It is a group effort to talk about the TR Triangle and to understand where our growth can come from in tourism. I pull all of this information off of the National Park Service, their statistics webpage. It's irma.gov/NPS. And we've used a lot of these numbers just in our own planning and understanding of how where our visitors are coming in. If we can just get a small percentage, even if we can just get a small percentage of this visitation, it would be really great. And so what I did was I looked at, we look at recreational visits. And I know that we always talk about, oh, Theodore Roosevelt, 800,000, visitors. But what I like to focus on is what is those traffic counts to the South Unit? Because you have to understand how the National Park Service gathers their data. That data is coming from the North Unit, South Unit, and Painted Canyon. And then they have a number of how many people are in each vehicle. So I like to actually look at the vehicles that are coming to the South Unit. How many people are actually coming into Medora, not just to Painted Canyon, but to Medora? So you have to think about Mount Rushmore does the same thing and Yellowstone does the same thing. So you can actually go into their website and you can pull out the North Gate. The West Gate, of course, you can imagine, has the most visitation. The East Gate doesn't have as much, probably because they have closures a lot. And then here, this number is so low is because that was closed for that whole year. I don't remember how the slide and the road just went away. So that must have been really hard on them. But I love looking at this Mount Rushmore, those numbers. And we're thinking of how do we promote this? How do we promote this TR Triangle to get those visitors to start coming, not just to Yellowstone and Mount Rushmore, but to come and visit us as well. So most recently went to the American Bus Association conference in Nashville, and I was just blown away about that whole industry, the touring bus industry, and where everybody comes from and how large that industry is, and how so many of them just do the Mount Rushmore to Yellowstone loop and haven't even thought about us. And so I'm out there promoting, trying to get them to understand who we are, what we offer, that we're not that far away from these places, and to try and drive some more tourism to us. We all love this place, and this is a whole new chapter for all of us. And it's a great opportunity. And that opportunity is now. Whenever we open, we have to make a really great impression on these tourists that are coming to our area, to show what we love about our area and to kind of like have that out there. So that way when those visitors come through, they start to talk about it, because we are being talked about in all 50 states. It's amazing. I would talk to some ranger friends of mine that are from Alaska. She goes, Amy, I had a visitor that came in and said that she knew about the library in Medora. And I'm like, what? And so it's getting out, it's coming, and we need to be ready for it and have have those amazing opportunities ready for those visitors to experience. With that, I do have, my cards are over on the resource table. If anyone would like one to contact me and we'll have some further discussions today at the roundtable on tourism.
Thank you, Amy. I want to reiterate what she said about those visitors that she's working to get into our area. I don't know what the statistic is, Brooklyn, on how many visitors, like residents start as visitors. Is it like 76%? North Dakota Tourism puts that number out that all the time. And if we want those people to eventually convert to workforce or living here, that first impression is going to be so important. So I feel like this rock over my head, like that 2026 deadline, like our communities need to be ready. We need to be prepared to showcase what we have to offer here and put our best foot forward. So thank you for the work you're doing. I know how hard you're promoting. Those bus tours are fascinating to me because how do we get them to do day trips in our region? How do we get them to spend that money from outside of North Dakota in North Dakota? So I think that's really important. And I thank you so much for the work you're doing. Okay, we'll let Brent go next.
Good morning. My name is Brent Bolgar. I'm a practice leader and senior consultant at AE2S. And a little bit of my background before I get into the topic that I'm going to talk about for existing opportunities in economic development, specifically around the energy industry, is I grew up in eastern Montana and then moved to North Dakota, went to college, lived in Williston, was actually on the Williston City Commission during the oil boom. And so dealt with infrastructure impacts, the economic impacts that we've had. And then since that time, I've worked with the Western Dakota Energy Association as a consultant with them throughout a number of different projects and working with the legislature on infrastructure funding and policy. So got a lot of background, have worked with a number of the people in this room on different projects. So it's great to see everyone here. But I was just was asked to talk about some of the opportunities that are out there and maybe give a little bit of background, because a lot of times we hear things in the news or you know at the coffee or during break at church or whatever it is, and things come up. And so I thought I'd just give you like the 30,000-foot level on some of these topics that are out there, specifically around energy opportunities. And first and foremost is, especially in Southwest North Dakota, and Basin did a great job of talking about this, is North Dakota is an all of the above energy state. We have so many opportunities when it comes to energy development, and those opportunities are different depending on where your geography is. You know, when we think oil in North Dakota anymore, the Bakken is what comes to mind. But oil's been Bowman, prior to the Bakken, Bowman County was the #1 oil producing county in the state of North Dakota. Now it's number 7. So it changes. But honestly, the level of oil being produced out of Bowman County has not declined at the same rate that the Bakken levels are declining. And we're actually seeing oil activity and production in Bowman County increase because of enhanced oil recovery with the Denbury project and the CO2 lines coming in. And so these energy opportunities different. We have wind farms in Southwest North Dakota. We don't have those necessarily in as much in Northwest North Dakota. There's one up in Northwest North Dakota. So it varies where we're at. And so when I talk about all of the above, is we have to keep an open mind and realize that just because someone has Bakken doesn't mean that I can't have something else, right? We all have our own opportunities, and we have to create our own opportunities when it comes to energy development or any economic development, really. You can't compare, we're never going to compare Southwest North Dakota to Cass County. The opportunities they have, the infrastructure that they have, the industries they have are different. So what are the opportunities that we have here in Southwest North Dakota that we can use to our advantage to increase our opportunities here? And so I talked about oil, you know, natural gas comes with that. We've got renewables, the wind, but really the emerging opportunities are the ones that I wanted to spend more time focusing on. Hopefully everyone in this room has heard about the hydrogen hub with Marathon, TC Energy, the EERC. This is a significant undertaking. The state of North Dakota, led by the EERC, putting together that application, getting a grant from the Department of Energy, over $1 billion grant. Working with multiple states, but one of those nodes in that hub is gonna be just outside of Dickinson. And hydrogen has so many different industrial uses. There's been the talk of hydrogen being the next energy source. You know, we're gonna have hydrogen powered vehicles, hydrogen fuel cell airplanes, all of those type of things. That might happen. I'm not here to say yes or no on that, but the reality is there's industrial uses for hydrogen in our world today that need to be met. And the demands are there today. And so if we have the opportunity to take advantage of that, develop our existing energy infrastructure, use the natural gas that's here, that's where that hydrogen would come from. It's from the natural gas that is being produced. Being able to use that then to create new opportunities, tying in the value added energy. So I'm taking that natural gas, I'm using it for industrial uses within hydrogen, but I'm also using it to produce fertilizer, which then ties that to our ag economy, which is a huge portion of Western North Dakota, and being able to provide low cost and eliminate basically that transportation cost on fertilizer. My father-in-law sat on one of the local elevator grain boards out here, Southwest Grains. The cost of transportation on fertilizer, bringing fertilizer into our markets, is insane at times. And so if we can eliminate some of that cost for our farmers, that creates that opportunity, creates that synergy of the energy industry with our ag industry. And then we can look from there, what are the value added adds that we can go from there for ag production here in North Dakota, for our energy production? What's the next thing down the road with hydrogen? When I think about the entrepreneurial spirit of North Dakota, I think about how we take things and like, we've got one thing, we produce grain here, for an example. But all of a sudden, you know, and this wasn't in Southwest North Dakota, but we saw an opportunity, people saw an opportunity that we could produce and do value added ag. So we created Dakota Growers, pasta in Carrington. There was a pasta plant up in Crosby for a while, you know. We produce things and then people come up with ideas. That's what entrepreneurship is. We come up with the ideas and we see an opportunity. We say, hey, there's something else there that they're saying that's not worth anything. I'm going to figure out a way to make that worth something. And a great example of that really is the Bakken with natural gas production. When the Bakken was first started to be developed, what did we do with the natural gas? Flared it, right? Because it was a waste product. The industry was after the oil, not the gas. It wasn't because we didn't have the infrastructure for the gas. It was legitimately considered a waste product. Great job. So then people started looking and the gas started to have value, but then infrastructure was the problem. So then we started getting direct capture opportunities on the well sites for natural gas. Data centers being placed on well sites. So those are the types of things that I want everyone in this room, when we're thinking about economic development opportunities around our industry, is always looking to say, what is there now, but what could it be? You know, there's a project that I've worked with a little bit where they're actually looking at how to use the wastewater off the oil production to create rare earth minerals. That's where those come from. We have rare earths here in Southwest North Dakota. Hopefully the geological reports, these are another opportunity. You know, Department of Energy says rare earth for mining, you need about 300 parts per million to make it economically feasible. Anyone know what the number is for the samples that have been dug out here in Bowman County? You can't answer it, Josh.
500 or above.
1,800 to 3,000 parts per million. So we're 10 times over what DOE says from an economic viability standpoint for some of those rare earth minerals. So those are opportunities. You know, there's a lot to get through all of that, permitting, mining, all of that. But the thing that I want to stress with all of that is, you look at those opportunities, you hear about these opportunities, it takes planning to prepare for them. You know, I've been in city council commissions and I've been working with infrastructure for almost 20 years now. It takes a long time to build the infrastructure to support large industry. You know, Bakken infrastructure, we're still not caught up. So when you start looking at the opportunities, we need to also be thinking about the investment in the infrastructure necessary to support those industries. Planning appropriately for the water, for the transportation, for the takeaway, for the energy needs. But then beyond that, start thinking about the economic development opportunities in regards to the community development that can support those industries. What do we need to have in our communities here that make our communities where those international companies want to invest and say, I'm going to build a facility there, where those national companies say, we're going to locate in Swope County, we're going to locate in Bowman County or Billings County for our facility. We have to make sure, because it's not just about, we have the resources, but we got to make ourselves attractive so that they want to invest here as well. That takes good business climate policy, but also takes good communities so that they have a workforce and people want to work for them. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Laura and then hopefully leave some time for some questions for everyone.
Thank you, Brian. I will say, I was one of the people writing one of the 4 grants. This were 2 of the 4 grants this week. So not as many stats heavy on this slideshow, but do want to definitely make sure we call out our foundation of agriculture here in the southwest corner of North Dakota. These are the people that fill our communities and really are the backbone of what can provide for everything else that we do. And so I had a few conversations to prep to kind of just see what people thought our state of agriculture was here in the corner of the state. And indications are showing extremely strong, especially within this past year. Diversification, we have plenty of that. There's been some development in new grains. They're doing small grain, rural crops, broadleaf, varied livestock, large and small herds, and pulse crops. So we're seeing a lot of diversification in our ag, and that is expected to continue into the future. But all of this kind of depends on a lot of the infrastructure elements that were mentioned in the prior panel, access to water, roadways, and ability to move the product out of the area. However, we do have value added ag right here in the area as well. And so the more we can do our value added within the region, the quicker we're going to be able to see that return. We know there's problems with logistics often when it comes to moving a product out of the area. And so if we are able to use it here, create additional value, and then send it off somewhere else, that is a huge potential for our area as well. I'm going to come back to local foods branded products. This is something we're seeing more and more of, where it ties to the local foods efforts as well. But local foods and branded products kind of, like I said, go hand in hand, and we're seeing people want to produce something that they can sell direct to market, as well as in a little bit larger capacity too. They want to see small manufacturing abilities within our communities, and again have the business friendly climate in order to do that. Something we see a lot within those areas is insurance issues. You know, people that are making candles or things of that nature from soy that they get here in North Dakota, they're not a huge manufacturing facility with potential to burn down, of a huge area. They're probably making a small amount batch in their homes or in an outside area, and but insurance is a huge hurdle for them. Local foods is probably the biggest thing that we're seeing as a new opportunity across the state. We are part of a USDA pilot program with the North Central Regional Food Business Centers. Roosevelt Custer Regional Council is a part of that. We're actually covering Region 8 and Region 7 as part of our action plan. This is a 5-year action plan. And the real role that the councils are taking is to build capacity for our producers, and then also kind of in that middle realm again. What can we do in wholesaling? How can we create distribution areas? But also from the ground up, helping our small producers directly understand farm to school is something we heard a ton about in our roundtables that we held at the end of the year in Region 7 and 8. Some of the districts have it figured out. Bismarck has got a great program. And so we're hoping to use that information, make sure it's getting to the people that want to use that, and have everything in place in order for them to build that capacity to get fresh food to our children in the hopes that really it kind of changes the food culture. Our food culture is very removed, even here in North Dakota, from farm to table. And so it's kind of rebuilding that, making sure kids like fruits and vegetables and are willing to try spinach and kale and all those things. So that is a huge effort and an opportunity here. Economically, so as far as the money goes, I'm gonna have to thank my banker friend Dwayne for this. But he says it's very strong capital investment into real estate, equipment, and other capital improvements. Ag real estate continues to appreciate at record levels. So we're not, I mean, our value of our land is astronomical, and land isn't sitting empty. It is being used in a huge variety of ways. There's very few spots within our entire region that is just sitting there waiting to be used. So that is very high. There's strong liquidity due to the high commodity prices in the past year. So our farmers and ranchers are doing well in the area. And a lot of that we can't control because it is commodity based, but we do have that fantastic foundation to continue to build upon. A few programs that I did want to highlight specifically to kind of municipalities and organizations are all through the Department of, not all of them, but the Department of Ag has really brought out, there was 3 press releases in the month of February of new programs that they were bringing to the forefront. And so I did want to point that out. Taryn did mention the Regional Livestock Development and Planning Grant. So this is specifically for municipalities and organizations to take advantage of in order to prepare their planning and zoning to take on value-added ag businesses. So definitely an opportunity for our communities to have that in place in order to, if, you know, we've got Spruce Hill Meats here in Bowman, just very recently USDA certified meat processing plant, so that communities can be prepared for that they have what they need in order to get rid of their waste and prepare themselves to also scale. The Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure Grant. This one, again, is kind of in the middle, more targeted towards businesses and already operating in that realm, but in order to increase that capacity of getting a product from one place to the other. The Agriculture Infrastructure Grant, this is specifically into political subdivisions. And so if there are load restrictions or things of that nature that need to be addressed, this is one of the opportunities to be able to do that. Bioscience Innovation Grant, this is more towards that innovation side. Again, these all just came out, and there's a few that I wish we would have had ahead of time, but we'll catch them next year. Innovation, they're looking for that. They're wanting to put money behind those dollars. So we're using our products again here in the state to solve issues and create solutions for outside of the state. I do want to highlight the event that's coming up, the Local Foods Conference. Like I said, local foods has definitely become a very hot topic. We are working with a wide variety of collaborators throughout the state and this specific program that we are involved in. We have NDARC is involved, farms up in Botno. The Department of Ag is part of this as well. And so we're very excited to be bringing those opportunities to our region and hopefully putting together some of those best practices and communications that will really help those farmers and small producers get their product to where they would like to go. Question.
Special shout out to Laura. She was in the office doing these grants this week, and we tried to get someone from the Department of Ag or NDSU Extension to do the ag presentation, and we were ready to cut it. She's like, I'll do it. So kudos to Laura on that for stepping in, and this is not what she does every day, but she did a very good job. So do we have questions for these panelists today? Okay, you guys just did an amazing job. I think they talked a lot about the great opportunities. The Amy's presentation, the Destination Development Fund, I don't know how much specifically came to our region, but a significant amount of those dollars did impact Southwest North Dakota. They're going to good purposes. I don't even know what the number was for applications compared to funding. Do you know that off the top of your head? Okay, so there was 25 million in that fund and $151 million in applications, which goes to show you that program, there is support behind it, there's value in that program, and a lot came to our region. So I think that's something that we should take a hard look at this next legislative session, and just expand on those tourism opportunities here in North Dakota. So with that, I am going to welcome someone I'm very excited agreed to speak for us today. Former Senator Rich Wardner. He started his career in education, and as a graduate from Dickinson State University and Northern State University, he worked as a science and math teacher, a football and basketball coach, and a farmer. From 1991 to 1997, he served in the North Dakota House of Representatives. Between 1999 and 2022, he served in the North Dakota Senate. Following the death of State Senator Bob Stenjum in July 2011, he served as the Senate Majority Leader. Rich retired from the North Dakota Senate in December of 2022. He now serves as the chairman of the Sunrise Youth Bureau and the Midwest Legislative Conference and remains involved in other organizations. So thank you so much for being here today. We're very grateful that you joined us.
Well, it's great to be here and it's good to see so many of you. I haven't seen you for a long time, so it feels good. I feel like being home. Let's see, I need the.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Okay. I don't have a lot of time and I got a lot of things to say, so I'm gonna get going. The first thing I want to tell you that I feel like the quadrangular strangle is coming to North Dakota. And I'll tell you what I'm talking about, and this is one of them, the property tax thing. Number one, the first one has already happened, and that happens to be term limits, 8-year term limits. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, that is not gonna work. We have got to change that and at least fine with the term limits. But we gotta lengthen the terms. By the time they know where the bathrooms are, they're done. I'm being a little bit facetious. The other thing is this property tax elimination. And then they also have going on the ballot is an age limit. We don't need that. And the other thing is we got to vote paper. We're going to count the votes at the election by hand. That is what I call strangulation of this state. So I need to get going here and talk a little bit about this. First of all, the proponents of the property tax thing, they're rock throwers. They're not challenge people. They don't try to solve problems. Here's what they say. The state of North Dakota overspends by 2.5 billion a year. The fact is that is true, but they don't go any further than that. And I'll tell you the real story there. Every way you look at the state of North Dakota overspends more than 2 billion per year. North Dakota legislature spends like drunken sailors and nothing but wasteful spending. That irritates me. Legislature does not give any tax relief. That is baloney. We have, and the state has billions of dollars. Well, we do, but they're all restricted. Many of them, legislature is funding corporate welfare. Yes, Josh, they're after you. Everything that was talked about in this last panel, corporate welfare. All the research dollars, corporate welfare. The state budget has increased 136% since 2008. It has, but there's more to the story. There is more to the story, folks. This is as far as they go. And they've got people so lathered up that it's unbelievable. All right, I'm going to quickly, and I got to go through this. And there's some things I'm going to go through quickly because I don't have time to go through them. You decide where the major waste is. You, not have somebody tell you. The first thing you decide if the state has 1.232 billion per year, that's what it's going to take to give to the political subs to get rid of property tax, or 2.464 billion per biennium. Now, no, the number in this presentation we're talking about a biannual budget. They don't ever say that. Because here's where we're at. I listened to one presentation by somebody, and boy, they pounded on that. They just hammered it home. 19.6 billion. Yeah, oh, they're really fired up. Or they're getting worked up in the audience. Those legislators, that's you, Shively. Well, you didn't say it. And you, okay. But the first thing you need to understand is that we have three different funding type things in the state. There's the general fund, the federal funds, and special funds. Now, if you think it's all one pot, it is not. They're all a little bit different in the source and how they're spent. So now we're gonna start with 19.6 and we're gonna work down. If you got a pad of pencil, you just can write down the chunks, because I'm gonna chunk it. Whoops. Okay, what are general funds? I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on them. They're from general taxes. They're from the sales and use tax, motor vehicle income, corporate, some oil tax. Only what the legislature says is. And then what are special funds? Special funds are generated by an agency, constitutional fund, college tuition, oil tax. But they come for a specific use. They're there for a specific person or reason. So we have the state gas tax, 23 cents. You can't spend that for property tax. That's for roads. That's for roads. It's not for anything else. Common Schools Trust Fund. The earnings from the Common Schools Trust Fund is in the Constitution, folks. Voted on by the people, not the legislature. And so I get a little worked up about some of the accusations that come from these people. And then you got the university tuition, and that's a big one that they never tell you about. The Resources Trust Fund, that's oil tax and it goes to water. You've already heard Jim talk about that. The people voted on it. It's in the Constitution. But they don't tell you that. And I'm not going to go any more, but you got the point there. And now we're going to, and I talk about special funds continuing. Yes, there it is, the Bank of North Dakota, Calvin. You are a special fund. The monies that are spent there are for them. They earn their own way. As we say, they eat their own roadkill. In other words, you cannot, we don't spend any general fund dollars on these people. Oh, and by the way, take that money away from game and fish. Try it. I'll tell you what, you'll have all the hunting groups in the state tracking you down. You don't use that for property tax or any other general fund use. So that's the deal on that. And then, of course, there's federal funds, and federal funds are not. They're specific. The federal government tells you what areas you're going to spend them in. So right now, you need to understand there are three funds at the state level, and they aren't all the same in how they're spent. Fact one. Now we're going to go down the line. Now we're going to chunk it. Fact one. Federal dollars are not eligible for property tax relief. So all of a sudden, 19.6 becomes 13.4. And I have seen that number on some of their material. Fact two, North Dakota appropriates 5.5 billion of non-federal dollars to assist political subs. This is where they come up with that North Dakota spends 2.5 billion more per year than South Dakota. Ladies and gentlemen, it's true. It's true, but that's as far as they go. You need to know the rest of the story. And so, and I'll be honest with you, it just irritates me. In other words, let's face it, they don't lie to you. They don't lie to you, but they don't tell you the whole story. So as a result, they are deceptive. And I'm getting tired of them calling the legislators a bunch of drunken sailors, because they're not. They work hard. All right. What is in this 2.5 billion? And by the way, these are 2-year numbers now. They're 2-year numbers. Well, there's property tax relief. Who do you think gets that? We do. Now, I don't have a slide that goes down the line, but 1.3 billion of it is for education. And when did it happen? The 2013 legislative session, we cut 115 mills. I don't care what they tell you. They can't backfill them. They're gone. The 115 mills are gone. And some of you that have been around for a while, go check the records. There was 185 mills back in 2006 or 2007 school year that you could levy. You can't anymore. 70. It's 70. So that's a fact. Water resources. Now, Jen had a number that was a little less than 783. But the thing is you have carryover from one biennium to the next. And I'm sorry, but that 783 is what's on the books. I didn't get these numbers out of the air. I got them out of the budget book. And so it's part of the count that they use, the spending. It's part of their spending. So it has to be there. The Common Schools Trust Fund, it's about a 510 million. That's given to schools. South Dakota doesn't have that. Ladies and gentlemen, the good Lord has blessed North Dakota. The oil revenue has made that Common Schools Trust Fund grow. We are very, very fortunate. We're not South Dakota. We are North Dakota. And we're doing a good job with our resources. Then we've got the in lieu of property tax, and boy, everybody you hear better have perk up to that, because that's the money that comes out to the oil counties as in lieu of property tax. We use that for the impact out here. We need that. And I'll make comment about that a little later on, because I think that's one of the pots that if this passes, they're going to dig into that, but we're not going to get as much. And don't kid yourself. They got to find it someplace. Aid to state aid to cities and counties. That's the part of a 1 cent sales tax that comes back to cities and counties, which has been going on for years. And then you've got the fuel tax distribution. Out of that 23 cents, counties, cities, townships, all get some money. Did you know that the state takes care of the county's unfunded liability in the PERS program? The prairie dog funding, which does not affect us here so much, unless you're from Hettinger and Adams County, it does. I was a big part of the prairie dog. Some of you may say, why are you giving all that money to the east, non-oil? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if we hadn't done that, they'd be digging in that other money and we wouldn't be getting what we need. We had to do something to protect, because all the time, this is what I heard out there. Yeah, we've now taken care of the oil counties and they thought you got too much. I was in the room, we argued, we debated. This took care of them. But I'll tell you what, if we lose our in lieu of property tax oil money, that 600 and some million, that will have an effect on us. Then I've had the insurance tax distribution, that's in That goes to fire departments. But that's just some examples. All right. So now we've got the federal money out and we have got the assistance to political subs. I didn't see any waste in the assistance to political subs. Out here, we earned every nickel of it. All the roads that got pounded, big trucks and stuff like that. Let's go to number 3. This is a good one. I don't even know if they know it's in there. I don't know. In 2017 session, the tuition and fees from higher education was off budget. We didn't even deal with it. It wasn't in the budget. It was off budget. In 2017, we said, you know what? We got to be more transparent. We got to let people know that these dollars are coming in to the university system and they need to be included. So we did. Well, it's been a pain in the butt ever since because that money stays at those universities, those schools. It doesn't come to the state, but it's counted in the budget. It's on paper. Therefore, that's $2 billion. That's to the 11 colleges and universities. You can't use that for property tax. What are you going to do? Go to NDSU and say, by golly, you better write a check. We need some property tax money. It's not going to happen. So we've got it down now to 5.9 billion. I didn't chunk it very much, and I got her down from 19.6 to 5.9. This is how bad it is when they go out there and stir up the people. All right, let's talk a little bit more. There's more. It's special funds. Most of the special funds you cannot spend for property tax relief. So I took some out, North Dakota Game and Fish. I took the highway tax fees out. That's the state's portion, not the counties and cities and townships. State park fees. So I've got about $500 million there that and I'm not going to get them all. I'm just going to do some more. And here are some more special funds: Bank of North Dakota, Mill and Elevator, Workforce Safety, all of these. And then from the previous slide, so I get another 0.8 billion or 813 million. So now we take those off, and there's more. There's more, but we'll quit there. They're legit. These are facts. All right, when you subtract the special funds, you're now down to 5.1 billion that I have listed. Ladies and gentlemen, you notice we're a long ways from 19.6. The guy I listened to in Dickinson, he pounded on 19.6 all night. The only good thing was it stormed and there was only 14 people in the audience. And Senator Dean Rummel and I were 2 of them. So now you've got 1.5 billion for the biennium, and you've got 2.55 per year. So now I'm going to shift to year and show you. And there's a lot of writing, but I'll try to quickly go through it. They want 1.268 to fill. Get rid of property taxes. The state has to come up with that. So I take that number and I subtract it from 2.55. I end up with 1.282 billion, or that's 1,282 million. It don't work, folks. It don't work. And I could go into where that money goes and show you, but we don't have time here tonight. But believe me, it's true. It's not baloney. All right. What are you going to do? to make up that money. You're gonna have to increase the income and sales tax, or you gotta cut aid to political subs and move it to the state paid property tax relief. That's what's gonna happen to a lot of it if we do. If this is passed, that's what's gonna happen. Now, I am aware that there is an individual that wants to put a bill in to limit property taxes, not get rid of them, but limit them. Some reform, as they say. And what is the first thing they said? Political subs spend too much. It's all on you, Pine. You're the guy. You're the bad guy in here. Well, I don't know anything I've seen. Everybody is trying to provide the services for their constituents, the people in the county that are important. I don't really see a lot of waste going around in cities and counties. All right. Number 3, the price of oil has to average $100 a barrel. We have to have 1.3 million barrels per day for at least 8 years if we're going to fund this thing. And you know as well as I do, oil fluctuates on world things. It's not going to happen. And then the stock market. Well, we could rely on the legacy earnings, but we got to have an excellent return. And I put a 9.5 there, and it would have to maintain that for a while and stay there. And the markets could not go up or down. They got to kind of grow. Not going to happen. So this one, you have all that money. One of the reasons North Dakota had such a large funding end balance, or at the general fund ending fund balance, why didn't we have one? The last 2 bienniums, it's been $1 billion. Someone said to me, well, you got to step back and look at all the money. Well, it's pretty simple. We got COVID money. We got $4.2 billion from the feds. And we pumped it into our budgets. And what we did is, number one, we said, if we can spend federal money and save state money, we're going to, and we supplanted it wherever we could. As a result, that money stacked up as an ending fund balance. So when it comes to the ending fund balances, the answer is the federal money. But I want you to see what's in red there. This funding is no more, folks. It's over. It isn't going to go forward. We're not going to have these huge ending fund balances. We have all that money. Oh, we got a little fat guy that runs around the state with the trailer behind his vehicle. He's always blabbering. They got all this money. Well, there it is. That's 25 billion. There's another couple, a few cream cans that are kind of small that we could throw in there. But 17.1 billion of that 25 is in the Constitution. Now, I guess the Constitution is important sometimes, but not other times to them. That's a fact. You can go to the bank. You can go to the Kelvin's bank on that one. Then you go to the 3.5 billion, it's in retirement funds. You cannot dig into the PERS or the teachers' funds for retirement. That's where they are. Federal government messes with the Social Security. That's not good. We're not doing that in this state. The other one is we got 1 billion in dedicated funds. Yes, I guess if push come to shove, we could dig those out, but most of the time, if we did, they would be around for one time. They'd be there for one time and then they're gone. I'll give you an example. We have a rainy day fund in North Dakota. And yes, it has over 900 million in it. 15% of whatever we have in the general fund. Yeah. That's a lot of money. And yes, the governor doesn't like it, so. I like it because I went through the 15-17 biennium. When we went broke and we needed that fund. We didn't have as much in it. It is a lot of money and it's only getting fixed income. It's all it's getting, it's interest. However, if we ever end up not being able to, our budgets, our funding, our revenue goes down, it's there to make sure we will not have to crash. We will have a nice transition. But you do need to know that there's about 900, I think there's about 915 million laying in that account. You can spend it. It'll be there one time. It's gone. Now, we can lower that. We probably can. I don't have a problem with that. But the point is, I don't want to lie to you. I've heard enough lies. I don't need to be one to be doing. Then there's the 1.5 billion appropriated, and most of that comes from the legacy earnings. That's where it comes from, the legacy earnings. But some of that has been appropriated. And so the bonding for the Red River Valley or the Red River diversion, there's 100 million of that has to go to pay the bonds on that. I don't have time to go into why that's a good deal, although I'm going to tell you, it's cheaper for North Dakota to have bonded that thing when it was going to happen anyway than to piecemeal it out a little bit at a time. But if anybody wants to talk to me about that later, I will, but I can't go into that. So there's about 130 million that could go to property tax relief. North Dakota assets funds with the balance, and I'm just going to quickly run through them. There they are. There's the rainy day from the budget stabilization, Common Schools Trust, Legacy. I kind of talked about all of them. There they are. They're going to go down the line, Resources Trust Fund, and when I look at that, that's money that's coming in. And then you got brought forward, and you can see the Resources Trust Fund, money gets spent, so you can't count it all. And then you got the retirees, public employees, teachers, legacy fund earnings, and so forth. So we come out around 25 billion. There they are. All right, we spend too much. A large ending fund. And again, the general COVID dollars have ended. The chance of $1 billion ending fund is slim. It could happen if the revenue is right. I went and checked on this. The projected was 71.5 million ending fund balance. That's what the legislature left with. Well, I want you to know that we're running over forecast. Hey, things are good in North Dakota. And so it looks like the projected over forecast for the general fund is going to be 625 million. And you can take this and twist it and say, boy, you can do the property tax. Not really. I add them together and I get the total windfall for 23-25. At the end, the legislature will be looking at around 696.6 million. Say, oh, that could be used. Oh, but there's a little thing called cost to continue. Now, I don't have time to go through cost to continue, but believe me, with inflation and I'm not going to go in, it takes too long to, believe me, there is cost to continue. I got this from Legislative Council. Those guys are about as honest as you can get. They wouldn't lie if they were paid to lie, right, Calvin? Would Alan Knutson ever tell a lie? No. All right, so you're going to have to believe me on the cost to continue. So now all of a sudden, there's only 121.5 million left. And then we go on, this is the oil funds now. You're going to have all this money. North Dakota's oil revenue funding facts. 53% of the state's revenue is from the oil and gas tax. That's another thing that they go to the tax facts that comes out of Washington DC, and they see North Dakota is number one in per capita tax. We're taxing our people higher than any state, but they don't tell you that a big part of those taxes are oil taxes, which you and I don't pay. It's deceptive. So when you go through it, you come down, and it looks like there's gonna be about 874.6 million in the CIV fund. That's after all the constitutional funds take their money out and all of that. Remember, when a dollar comes in of oil revenue, 30 cents goes to the legacy fund. Another 10 cents goes to the, well, no, it's really 10 cents goes to the education funds, and another 10 cents goes to resources trust, because I'm tying the two taxes together. Well, that sounds great. But one thing happened. A little bit of history, you need to know this. In the 1517 legislation, we still continue to fund that 100, remember I mentioned 115 mills? We continued to fund that to the schools. And what happened is we got a gap in the general fund. We weren't getting enough general fund dollars to fill that gap, because that money was going back to take care of property taxes for the people. And we hung in there, even when times are tough. Well, that has now built itself up to 1.333 million. 1,333 million, or 1.3 billion, is what the state for the biennium now takes care of the 115 mills. Well, we have to transfer that to fill that. We've been doing it. We tried to, not going, there's another story, but I won't go there. And Kelvin knows we not only take this money, you know what the legislature does? They go to the Bank of North Dakota and say, we want 140 million from you. And we lost a great servant in Eric Hartmeyer. But Eric used to get so upset. You're taking away our ability to stay in business. But Jeff Delzer would go over there, poke him in the belly and say, we gotta have it. It's not there for property tax. That's the point I want you to understand. That is not there for property taxes. They needed to take care of other property taxes that we've been doing for quite a while. I will finish with this. Where will the dollars come from if we eliminate property tax? And I will be quick. Oil funds and reclamation, 77 million. It's gone. We're going to take that oil money and we now do it for research. Lignite research, oil research. By the way, do you know how we got found the Bakken? Harold Ham went up to UND, went to the rock library, and he looked at them rocks and he says, there's oil in them there rocks, and that's how it got started. The EERC, the Energy and Environmental Research Center, is one of the unsung heroes of this state, believe me. All right, 75% from the oil producing counties. That's us. I believe they'll take 75%. What else would they do? And now, by the way, this is speculation and not facts. And then you go to the homestead or prairie dog, that would go. That's not for us, that's on. And then you got the homestead and veterans disability, the sick, now you can't take that at 0-0 because I just told you. Earnings from the legacy, And then, when we go, we can cut the general fund. We can cut it 3.5, that's the general fund money that's left. The rest is special fund. And when you get all done, at the end of the biennium, you could scratch up 1,325.9 million, and that is digging into some real important things. They're still gonna be 942 short. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the state, it doesn't work. Thank you.
Well, if you ever need a speaker for after lunch, I think you would be a good candidate. You know how to work a room, that's for sure. I do want to take a second and thank our sponsors that stepped up and really helped us pull this event together. They are on your agenda, and so we are very, very grateful for them for doing that. We've heard a lot of great information this morning. Property tax, when we talked to our commissioners, that was the #1 topic that they wanted to discuss today. They are concerned about it. It would impact offices like mine, being able to do the work that we do, them being able to fund us. So it is a critical thing for us here. We heard a lot of great topics this morning. I've already had discussions on possible solutions for some of the things coming up today, or that we talked about today. There's a lot of great opportunities for us here in Southwest North Dakota. So I will open this up for discussion quick before we cut to lunch, but there are going to be roundtables happening this afternoon. These guests of ours have agreed to stay with us and hear our conversations. There will also be people sitting at those tables taking notes. We made sure to have someone available at each one, writing down what you're saying and what you're talking about, so we can make sure that we pull that information together and take it to where it needs to go. And when we hear commonalities, I think it's very important to say, here's really what we're hearing for our communities, from our communities. So that will be a part of this afternoon. We invite you to stick around if you'd like and have those talks. They're on the back of your agenda. There is a conference room located upstairs. And so some of those roundtables will be happening there. And then we're just going to kind of go with the flow and see how things are going. And we'll give about 35 minutes for each of those. You'll have a chance to sit at 2. And then we'll bring it all together and let you go for the day. But yes, we will be fluid in that. I would like to ask, is there things that you feel were not addressed this morning or not on the agenda today that need to be part of the continuing discussion? Yes.
City infrastructure. Aging city infrastructure.
Aging city infrastructure. Yes, this is it. And how to fund it. This is a big topic. I know I'm getting familiarized with the CDBG program for community infrastructure, but that only works in LMI communities. And so this is a big topic for a lot of the communities, is how to age or address that. She's making an escape. If you want to catch her, you got to do it now. Call her. She'll always pick up her phone. She might be working on a flower arrangement while she's doing it, but she'll pick up the phone. Any other things that you feel should be on the agenda or should be talked about today? Nothing. How about you? Anything? Good? I love when I go to a commission meeting and they put me on the spot and I wasn't expecting it. They're like, hey, Taryn, do you have any thoughts? No. Listening.
Get over that, add childcare.
Childcare. Yeah, going back to the statistic that out of Stark County, that is staggering. We've gone into every one of our communities. They don't have childcare availability in a lot of those communities. I know in Bowman County, we've seen a few recent openings, but it's a few. And when one family moves to town, they're gone. And that's critical. When we have been talking about the prices of childcare for families, that's another huge issue. I know your childcare facility specifically just made a recent announcement on the cost per day per family. I had 3 kids in 1 year. I could not have afford to put my kids in childcare if that would have been the rate. I believe Watford City is going up to $65 a day for an infant. So these childcare facilities, I think are you at 51 at yours?
we just went to 205 a week for infants.
That is,
And we're not making it, guys. We are not. So
No.
anybody that thinks we're making money, we are not.
they're not cash flowing. I commend, I'm just gonna say this, what happened with childcare, that was a huge, momentous amount of money that went into childcare facilities. But we just recently listened to a childcare presentation. Those funds are not being accessed. And I think it's an education piece. I think, that's part of it. That income level is not making it, in Bowman County, for instance, it takes two parents to work in order to live here for the most part. It's the cost of living, but we still have wages that are above where they can access those funds. So they're not accessing those childcare funds. I think our region is one of the lowest for accessing the childcare funds that are out there. So that is huge. The money for stabilization got taken away from the childcare facilities. We did need that. And it went instead to parents, but what's happening is they're not accessing it or they can't access it. We need more facilities. I know that's a big thing. In Stark County, they need more facilities and more workers. Can't afford to pay. I think our workers here in Bowman County start at
10-15.
I think it's actually lower than that. It's $12.50 an hour to work at the childcare facilities, and they can't afford to pay more. So it is a very critical thing. That legislation in Southwest North Dakota specifically did not maybe impact us the way we hoped it would. Any other comments? Go ahead, Carrie.
Real quickly, and I don't need a microphone. I think it's important to understand that those stabilization funds, we all of us involved raised our, nod our head. It's important to make sure that parents can pay for childcare, but these providers who are working for $12, $13, $15 a day on a 10-hour day, would you do that? With no benefits?
Yeah, we kind of, those wages are without benefits.
Yeah. Without benefits. Then, when you go to the grocery store to buy groceries for your family, you notice it every time you walk through the door. Those dollars are coming directly out of the pocket of because you still gotta pay your staff, but it's coming out of the director or the license holder's hand and their pocket for their family. So you've got an individual who's making maybe $30,000, $40,000 a year, working X number, do the math. And they're spending at least an extra $1,000 a month on food. That's $15,000 a year, do the math. Because of the weeks in the month, in the calendar year. I wouldn't do it, and I don't think any of us here.
And it's hard to ask people to do that. They have to have a special gift to do that. I know Carrie, and I don't know if this program went through, but she did go through. Okay, well, congratulations. The food program rates got cut. I know during COVID, they raised it. They were receiving about $5 something a day for childcare per kid. Go ahead.
So, no, I don't need a microphone. Through the Heartland Child Nutrition and Food Program that many of our licensed providers participate in, there's a tier 1 and a tier 2 reimbursement. Tier 1 is underneath a certain LMI for a region, and most of us here don't qualify, so most of our providers are tier 2 reimbursement. That's approximately a $3 a day differential. So if you are taking care of approximately 15 to 20 children a day, that's ×3. During the COVID time period, these providers, even though they qualified under 2, everyone got paid tier 1 to help stabilize them. Tier 1 went away for everyone, and then the tier 2 here about June of last year came back, and suddenly these providers were losing $900 to $1,500 a day. Came directly out of the pockets of those providers. As a result, I'm very fortunate that I have a supportive board And we made a decision to make up that difference for our licensed providers. We take that $1,000, which is a math problem, and I'm not as good at math as you are. Rich. Don't ask me to go through the numbers, but in the end, one gets approximately 1,017 and one gets 1,070 a month, but we take those funds and we put them in our local grocery store. In a prepaid account, so the dollars stay here, they don't go to Walmart. And so that provider who's been working 5, 10-hour days, doesn't have to go to town on Saturday to go to Walmart to try to save a dime. So we made that decision. We rolled it out 2 days ago. Happy people. Happy people. But it's a subsidy. It's making sure that these providers are made whole at a time when more and more people are leaving.
Yes, I love that idea. We're actually gonna, if you ever work with Carrie and you ask her for her thoughts, she will send you a picture of her whiteboard, which is really nice. You can kind of see her thought process. But I think that's a really cool local initiative that you took on. And I think as a, from the state level, it's calling people like Carrie who are dealing with the childcare every day. It's the benefits though, it's the pay, it's those food costs that are really limiting this. So yes, did you have some comments?
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that this was not an easy program to put together. You have an opportunity. I spoke with a lot of you folks from your prospective communities. Stick around, sit down with these folks, have them answer your questions. If they're busy with someone, wait, talk to them. Let's make the best out of this, because it wasn't easy to put together. And if they can help you out, and then I want to encourage you to reach out to Taryn with the grant writing and stuff. There's opportunities there, and I know it's overwhelming for some of you folks in the small communities to get them grants and write them up. But let these people help you with that. So again, this wasn't just to come in and listen to some talks. This is interactive, and we need you to be interactive with these folks this afternoon, and let's make the best of this.
Thank you for that. I agree. If you do have a particular grant that you're working on, you can reach out to us. We have assisted in this area. I got a call from an engineering firm the other day, and they had 11 community applications for that grid funding. And they were estimating 100 hours of work each to put those together. So they said, Karen, can you help? And we had to say we couldn't do it. But there is money out there. Our current administration, there's grants available if we can leverage those resources into our communities. Any other comments?
Can we get the slides?
Sure, absolutely.
We also are recording.
We are recording the presentations. Why didn't you tell me that? I should have known. Yes, I forgot that. They did get it accomplished to record these presentations today so that we can share them out further in those that couldn't be here today. So yes, thank you.